Today's podcast is sponsored by Audible. Find out how to get a free audiobook download when you visit the link audiblepodcast.com/RHAP. Coming to you live from my apartment, it's Rob Has a Podcast. And now, here's the guy who says, if this isn't the best podcast you listen to today, I'm gonna eat this rock. Rob Cesternino. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another season of Rob Has a Podcast. This is our big Survivor Caramoan premiere episode recap. Very excited to be back with you guys. I know a lot of people check out during the off season, didn't join in with all the fun that we had with crowning our new Miss Survivor this week. It was a huge upset that R.C. St. Amour became our new Miss Survivor this week. Very huge news. It was we had debates, we had everything. We talked to our final three with Kim Spradlin and Chelsea Meisner. So what a fun week, a very fun Survivor offseason, but we're back, baby. This is it. We won a podcast award during the Survivor offseason for the best entertainment podcast of 2012, and we thank you guys very much. So lots of big things coming up. Very exciting new season of Survivor to get it kicked off underway here today. So in this show, here's what we're going to do. We got so much, this is going to be a jam-packed show. We're going to talk to a three-time Survivor player who's played with many of the favorites that you see on the show. He has played with 3 of the 9 remaining favorites. That is right. Coach is going to be joining us on the podcast today. I have a good interview for you lined up with Coach. Then we're going to check in with Nicole Cesternino is going to join us, and we are going to talk about all of the drama going on between the survivors that are fighting on social media. We got a big update segment for you guys. And then later at the end of the show, I'm also going to talk to you. I have a new theory about who is the worst Survivor player of all time. That's coming up in the voicemail segment at the end of the show. So lots of stuff to get to, but it's already been a big Survivor week here. We have been doing our Survivor Know-It-Alls live this season like we did last season, although we've been doing them on using the Google Hangouts to do them. They've been watching them live on robhasawebsite.com with Stephen Fishback. I'm really happy with how the Know-It-Alls are looking this season, and I think I invite you, if you have only listened to the Know-It-Alls on audio, I invite you to check them out either on our YouTube page, which is youtube.com/Rob Cesternino, or if you go to robhasawebsite.com and look at the show page, you can watch the embedded video that I do with Steven. I think that you'll also like how they're doing. We're trying to do more visual stuff also during the live Know-It-All shows, and we did some fun stuff with trying to figure out the alliances on the big board. So that was with Steven on Wednesday night. We had a great show. And then I thought we had a good interview with Francesca. Also, we did our exit interview with Francesca, talked to her about what it's like to be the first person ever to be voted out twice during Survivor, and what was really going on and how she's doing. So that was a good interview, and if you haven't listened to that, you could check that all out. And if you don't want to miss anything, this is the beginning of the season. I always like to remind you guys when we start off a new Survivor season to get subscribed to the podcast. And so I offer you something different this time around. Now, if you want to just subscribe to all of the shows you do, and really, why wouldn't you? I mean, they're free. You can do that via iTunes on your iPhone. Just go to robhasawebsite.com/iTunes. Or if you're on an Android, you can go on Stitcher, or any device. You can go on Stitcher if you like the Stitcher. Stitcher's in a lot of cars these days. Go to robhasawebsite.com/Stitcher. Now, a lot of people also say, or a few people, a vocal minority say, Rob, look, we love the Survivor podcast, but I could care less about anything else you're doing. And first I say, well, that's very rude. But second of all, okay, I got you. If you want to just listen to our Survivor-only feed of the podcast, go to robhasawebsite.com/show feeds, and you can select Survivor. It's also at the top of the page. You can click on show feeds, and you can get a Survivor only RSS feed. So there you go. They try to keep everybody happy as much as I can. And if you are being kept happy by this podcast, we always appreciate when you leave us some feedback on iTunes for either the Survivor only feed or for the regular feed of Rob Has a Podcast. So all good. Thank you guys very much. And so the only other thing I want to tell you guys about before we get to Coach is I'm really excited about something. I'm going to have some big news to announce in the coming days about the first original Rob Has a Podcast web series. We're going to announce it pretty soon that we're going to what we're going to do. It's one of the craziest things I may have ever attempted to undertake in my life, and I'm very excited to tell you guys about that in the coming days. We should have something to show you very soon, but it's not ready to show you today. So how about we talk to Coach about some Survivor? All right, everybody, I've got a very special treat here to kick off the Survivor Caramoan recap podcasts. Here we go. He's a 3-time survivor. He's seen this game played just about every which way you could do it. He's a man of many, many talents, and he's played with not 1, not 2, but 3 of these returning favorites. Here he is, Coach Wade.
Hey, Rob. Here. Famous of survivors, Rob Cesternino.
Yes, Coach. How are you doing this morning?
So, I think that it's. I love kicking off this season with you because I like to start things off with a bang, and we're going to have a good time today. I can guarantee you that.
Yes, we certainly will, Coach. So, yeah, very excited to talk to you. Now, are you planning any exercise for this podcast today?
I am not on a treadmill running. I am looking out a huge window over the mountains of the Sierra Nevadas, and it is inspiring me a little bit to do some coaching. So I might be doing a little bit of that. If you hear a hum on the other line or if the phone drops and you get no response, you'll know that I'm in the midst of a meditative practice of ancient Chinese arts.
Very good. Very good. So, Coach, since the last time we saw you on Survivor South Pacific, I know you've had a couple of life updates. Now, did you get married? Was that after the show, or that was around the time of South Pacific?
Yeah. So actually, we have not had like a ceremony. We just simply we're gonna have an official wedding ceremony this summer.
Okay. You got engaged.
Yeah, No. Well, I mean, we went and just had like this private service, no honeymoon, nothing like that. Just really simple. We wanted to get married. Got married on New Year's Eve, but then we want to have a big wedding celebration this July.
Oh, that's awesome! And you also have a new addition that you are a dad.
That's exactly right. Yep. I've got a little boy. He's going to be 4 February 28th. So his birthday's coming up. He's awesome. Being a full-time dad and husband is something that I never really thought was going to happen.
Yeah, your son is full. I thought you had a new baby.
No.
Oh, Coach, I'm sorry.
That's okay. No worries.
Coach, I'm blowing it already in the new season.
That's all right. We're just getting warmed up, man. We'll rock and roll here a little bit.
Okay, good. Well, thank you for correcting me. We'll get this all up to date. And so, Coach, let's get into it. So we have Survivor. It's fans versus favorites too. They brought back all these people. Were you excited to see these players come back?
Yes, I'm excited for this season for a lot of reasons. I like the fans favorites format. I mean, obviously, it was one of their best seasons. Most people say it's in the top 5 all-time Survivor seasons, and so I really was excited about the format. I love the fact mixing new players and returning players. I think it's a good format. When you get an all-star cast, sometimes it's a little bit, there's a little bit too much gameplay that happens right off the bat. I know that just from watching it and also playing it, that it just is a little bit too aggressive right off the bat. And, you don't get to see the new characters. You have preconceived notions of the returning player. So a fan's favorite gives you a really good mix of new and old, and so I like that. And then, of course, when they started talking about the cast that was coming back, it was just exciting. Not only playing with several of them, like you said, 3, but also having met most of the cast. It's just really cool to see all these, familiar faces coming back. I've met Eric. I love Eric, and Andrea and Philip, and so it's good. I'm really looking forward to the season.
Yeah, and what's great to talk to somebody like you with so much Survivor experience under your belt is that you've played the game with just fans. You've played the game on a tribe of all returning players. And then you also have the experience in South Pacific where you're playing the game as a returning player with people who have never played the game before. So you've got this whole season covered, Coach.
That's true. I have all those circumstances.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know, where do we even want to start with this season? I guess let's start with the top here with Francesca. Coach, if you were on this season, would you have voted somebody out first who had already been voted out first again, Coach? Could you have done that to somebody?
I think that, Francesca's journey is going to go one of two ways as far as being a poignant part of the storyline. And that is she's going to go all the way to the end or pretty close to it, or she's going to get voted out first. So I know I'm not answering your question, but I will answer the question in a minute after I give a little bit of my, background and thoughts and theories on it. And so, I would have liked to seen her gone. I would have liked to seen her gone a long way. You can be a jerk and say, oh, yeah, this is great. She got, voted out first twice. But, man, that's hard for somebody. You and I have both met Survivor contestants that got voted out first. And that's hard, man. That's the one thing that you do not want to do. And to have her be the first person, in the history of Survivor to be voted off twice first, it must be psychologically. That must not be, I don't know if she's in a good place. I hope she is. Personally, I like her. I like her when she was on her first season. I saw her and I was like, wow, she's intelligent. She's really not making any bonehead moves. If it wouldn't have been for Philip's blow up in the beginning of, her first season with Boston Rob and Philip, I think she would have done really well because she seemed intelligent, didn't seem to be affected too much by the survival conditions itself. But anyway, so she got the raw deal. Would I have done it when I was out there? She's the kind of player that would be, to me, she's the kind of player that would be like a sleeper player. She would be like an Edna, or she would be, who else could I think about? Those players that are probably not going to be at the forefront, not going to be, calling the shots. And so she's a great player to take along and say, hey, you be loyal to me, I'm going to be loyal to you. She'll be fearful of being voted out the whole time. Mm-hmm. And so I think she would have been a good person to keep in your fold and to keep faithful and to be loyal to, for a certain time, not play the entire game with her. Maybe, I don't know. So yeah, I think it was unfortunate, but again, it's probably better that she got voted out first than to have her go and get voted out somewhere in the middle. Because then her story would have just been like, okay, she's just another player. At least now she has some notoriety of being the first person voted out twice on the first time.
She can own it. Yeah. But, Coach, should we be surprised? Wouldn't this be like if they brought you back and say, I know she didn't get voted out first, but let's say they brought back you on a season and they brought back Christine from Survivor South Pacific, somebody who, did not care for you. Well, maybe she did more so in real life, but on the show, it seemed like she did not want you around. She wanted to get rid of you, and you said, I got to get rid of her because she wants to get rid of me. If they brought you back on another season and they brought her back, just like Francesca and Philip, wouldn't you on the first vote say, hey, I got to get rid of this person who doesn't like me?
Yes. And being put in those shoes, absolutely. All bets are off when you go head to head with somebody. And it's a pretty desperate situation out there. If you haven't played the game, you don't really understand what it's like to become a target. But it really, gets you paranoid to hear your name talked about, and you'll do anything to try to stick and claw your way in the game.
Yeah. I got to ask you about these people that you played with, because two of them I think factored really to a big degree in what happened the other night. Because from what I was seeing, it looked like there were 4 people on one side, 4 people on another side, and it was Dawn and Cochran who looked to be the swing votes who ultimately voted with the Philip and Andrea and Malcolm and Corinne side, even though the Francesca side thought they were with them. And I was, I'm not shocked to see that from Cochran, but I've been very shocked to see this kind of gameplay from Dawn. Were you as shocked as I was?
I was not shocked because I think that, look at the pre-interviews and what do all the contestants say? Hey, I'm not here a second time. I'm going to right the wrongs of the first season, and I'm going to, realize my mistakes and do better and go out there and actually win. In fact, the only person that didn't say that, which I thought was really cool and really refreshing, was Eric. Eric's like, and that's why I really like Eric. Eric's just like, well, you know what? I'm going to go out there and just, play the game and play hard. And of course, now he's in the minority, which might say that he's not really a good Survivor player, but it was refreshing to see him say, hey, I'm going to go out here for the experience and just enjoy it. And so that was cool to see. I was not surprised with Dawn. I mean, Dawn, what you didn't see in our journey through Survivor 23 South Pacific is that the people that were on the out for so long, I mean, once Cochran flipped, it was like a pagong, just boom, 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 even though there was some drama in the intermediary episodes. It really was a no-brainer. They were all going home, but they did a lot of scrambling. And again, like I said, when you think that you're on the chopping block or when you're out there so desperately trying to make it to the next round and so desperately trying to make it into the better alliance, you're going to do anything that you can to make that happen. And so it didn't surprise me about Dawn. I think that she's a good player. I think she's a good social player. She works hard, and I like her. If I would have started the game with Dawn in my last one, I think it would have been totally different. But no, you do what you have to do, and on a second time around, unless you have very strong character, and you say I'm going to play this game totally straight up, it's hard to do that because you want to try to go out there and lie and cheat and steal and all that other kind of stuff when you're going out there for a second and third time. It takes a very strong character, Dragon Slayer, to go out there and say, I'm going to play the way I'm going to play no matter what and no matter, when I get voted off.
Yeah, I think Dawn could just be especially dangerous here along the way because her reputation is just, oh, Dawn is the nicest person. Dawn's not going to screw me over. Dawn's not going to lie to me. But, thinking about it, there was the time when, her and Cochran and Jim Rice and whoever else was there, they did, vote out Elise. They blindsided her and didn't tell Ozzy what was going on. So she does have that capability to be able to do that, but that's just not how we perceive Dawn, and we just say, oh, Dawn's not going to lie to me.
You bring up a good point, and it shows why you are big time, Rob, and
Thank
why
you, Coach.
You are so popular and well liked, and because you're a student of the game. I totally forgot about that, and I'm sure most people that are out there playing totally forgot about that as well, because she ended. You don't think about where they start. You think about how they end, and because she ended kind of as a martyr, and she was really skinny, and she was sick, and she just kind of got voted out, and it was very sad. That's what we remember, but you're absolutely right. In the beginning, she was out there wheeling and dealing and scheming just like the rest of them.
Mm-hmm. Coach, is it unfair for Dawn and Cochran to both be back? I mean, they were allies in their first game. There's nobody else here. I mean, other than you could say Philip and Andrea, but they weren't ever true allies. I mean, maybe they did have a relationship, and we could talk about whether that's fair or not too. But I mean, it seems like Dawn and Cochran, they were both on Savai'i to start with. They were close throughout the whole game, other than when Cochran made the move that Dawn didn't ultimately agree with, but even though she knew about it ahead of time. I mean, it does seem like they are a twosome to start.
Is it fair? Is it not fair? I mean, is it fair for Francesca to be paired out there with Philip? I mean, the game of Survivor is not fair. Mm-hmm. And I played, in Heroes Villains, I played with Tyson.
Yeah.
And we were, of course, on the same tribe, very smart, alliance-wise. And I thought, it certainly didn't do us any good, for us to get voted out when we got voted out. And so it didn't really work as an advantage or a disadvantage. I think you could play the argument for both. It could be an advantage because, of course, they've played together and they have strategized together. So they come in with a built-in alliance. But at the same time, it's like when you see two people sleeping together that are, having a showmance, you immediately want to target those people because you know that they are together and you know that they're in an alliance. And you always want to target the two people that you think are in an alliance. You just don't usually know it until it's too late when you're out there, unless it's a showman. So I think it could be looked at as an advantage or a disadvantage.
Coach, are you saying that you had a showmance with Tyson?
I've always loved Tyson. I've always been in love with him. That's no question about that. He is awesome. Not necessarily a showmance, but it certainly was a bromance, just like with Boston Rob. I mean, man, as Heroes and Villains, I was in heaven because I had, Jerry was there, and then, Boston Rob and Tyson were there, and I was like in heaven until I got voted out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we'll have a lot to talk about with Boston Rob when we get to Phillip and the BR rules and how many of those you picked up. But let's jump to Cochran here a little bit. What have you made of Cochran's performance here? Do you feel like Cochran has taken his game up a level from the time that you played with him?
My biggest fear with Cochran is that he would go out there and he would be the oddball, that he wouldn't be able to do well in challenges, and that he would get voted off pretty quick. Also, if they say, well, he's coming in as a flipper, we don't want to flip him around. And so that was my biggest fear, is that he would be on the bottom in the beginning and he wouldn't be able to come out of it. And I think, he was a little bit on the bottom for, maybe half a day or a day, sunburn and awkward and that kind of stuff. But he's smart, and, he's not going to be played a fool twice. So I'm happy to see that he's not on the bottom and that he's out there really using his mind, because I get it. When you're out there, it was kind of like that with me and Boston Rob. I mean, Boston Rob had so much time before he had played last till this time. And at that time, nobody had been back 3 times. So we didn't know, just who was going to be on that, Heroes Villains. There was kind of like this unwritten rule in our minds that, for an all-star, you would only have somebody that had played once. We didn't know if they were going to come back 3 times. Stupid, but it was kind of like in our mind. And so, to see Boston Rob out there, it was like, holy cow. And you do kind of lose your mind a little bit and your senses because you're just so starstruck. So I can imagine that was, a little bit of what was going on with Cochran when he was out there, just starstruck with the game itself, maybe starstruck a little bit with me, not patting myself on the back, but maybe that's why he did flip in the merge, because Ozzy was treating him like crap, and I had a warm hug and blanket and place for him in the shelter, and let's play this game together. So I think that I think that he had a little bit of that his first time. That's gone. He's there to play, and I'm looking forward to see what kind of strategies he comes up with. Hopefully he doesn't get tripped up by trying to be too aggressive, because we've seen that. We've seen people do that, to go out there and say, oh, I'm going to be so aggressive and I'm going to have so many alliances and I'm going to, play so hardcore, and then they end up getting voted out. So that's never a good thing. I just hope he doesn't get too aggressive, that he stays within himself.
Whether it's strategic or not, do you think there's something to that? You just look at Cochran, and whether it's sunburn or whether people are bullying him, is there something about him that you just feel bad for him and that you want to try and help him, that you never look at him as somebody that we got to get rid of him?
The only reason why you would look at him and say we've got to get rid of him is if you thought that he was a disability to your alliance or to your tribe, to keep them strong and to have, the stronger player. That's obviously, one of the first rules of Survivor team strategy is to, get a good alliance. After you get a good alliance, then you keep strong people around to win challenges, to go numbers up in the merge. So if he's a liability for that, that's one thing where he would become a target. I think after the merge, if he can make it to the merge, people will be thinking about the flip. So I think that's going to be in their mind. So I don't know. I guess physically you look at him and you don't think that he's going to be a target. But then on the other hand, you look at history and you think, well, he probably should be a target.
Yeah, very interesting to see what's going to, because they didn't even, Cochran, they didn't even mention him as, somebody who's going to hold them back in the challenges. They were lucky that he didn't have to do a big part of the challenge, but his
right.
feet have expanded to like twice their normal size. It's a miracle that he could even fit them in shoes right now.
Sure. Yeah, that's true. And again, when I saw that, I thought could very well be, his demise. But again, he survived through it, and now, we'll see where he strategically puts himself in the next few challenges. Or you never know, he might surprise all of us, and he might be that guy, winning individual immunities if he makes it to the merge. You just never know. I know for me, when I went out there the first time and I watched myself on television, and I just thought, I trained totally wrong to go out there, and I just thought, wow, I really was bad in challenges. So that was one of the things that I made sure when I knew I was going on Heroes and Villains, Frog March and Colby in the very first few minutes of the season, that, I needed to go out there and pick up my game. And so I trained totally different. Maybe Cochran's done that. We don't know yet because of his walrus-sized feet. Hopefully the swelling will go down and he'll be able to persevere and get out there and show us that he's a man in challenges.
So, Coach, you're saying that you think that Cochran's preparation for the season was wrong the first time, and you think that maybe he might have improved on his physical preparation the second time?
If it's anything like me, the answer is yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder. We'll have to hear from Cochran in a couple of months what his physical preparation was between the season. I'm sure
exactly.
It was probably, probably very impressive the whole way through. So,
exactly.
You talked about the wrestling Colby in that first challenge. Were you getting flashbacks to Heroes versus Villains to have a physical competition to basically like a wrestling match to start the season? Because, Coach, I have to tell you, if I was ever brought back on Survivor, this would be my worst nightmare to go ahead and have basically a battle royal with other survivors who I'm sure would like to beat me up to start the game.
Yeah, it's crazy, because when you go out there anyway, you really want to just kind of get used to your tribe and start making alliances and start getting your shelter set up. And so when you get off the helicopter or when you get on the beach or whatever, and all of a sudden you're doing a challenge, and especially a physical challenge, it's really nerve-wracking. I was scared to death, that day at Heroes and Villains when we got off the beach, and here we are doing a really, really physical challenge. I didn't know how I was going to stack up. You can train all you want to, but you might go out there and just completely lay an egg. And so, it's definitely nerve-wracking. Even going up against Ozzy when I did, that time, it's just like great, going up against one of the best challenge competitors of all time. And here's me, with a week's notice to go out there. And, I didn't train like I should have for that time just because I didn't have any notice. I was, my training for that one was down in Cold Stone ice cream and eating Philly, foot-long sub sandwiches. And it was crazy. I was like, before I went out on that last one, something happened with my mind. They called me a week before, said, can you do it? I rearranged my schedule, went out there and do it. And all of a sudden, I just started like pigging out. It was crazy. And I was like kind of joking, hey, I'm eating this 12-foot sub. And, it's like just cramming my stomach with as much food as possible and not training like I should have. But yeah, it's really nerve-wracking to go out there and on the first day have a challenge, especially when it's, the most physical and the people are gunning for you.
But isn't that the veteran move to do where the first time you go on Survivor, it's like, oh, hey, I got to do sit-ups, I got to do crunches, I got to look good with my shirt off because I'm going to be out there. But then you see like the people, the veterans, and maybe it's because they got older in between by the third time they come back. But isn't that the veteran move where you see a guy like a Boston Rob, really bulk up before coming back on the show? Look at what you look like by the end of your first season. As opposed to, you still had there was still a coach there on day 39.
Right. Yeah. That's, I don't know about it being a veteran move. I think that, obviously you want to load up, before you go out there. If you've played it before, the punishment that your body's going to go through. But there's that other, very vain aspect of our personalities. It's like, well, I want to go out there and look really good. Just like you said, I want to go out there. And the first day I take off my shirt, the first time I played, it was like, yeah, I want to take off my shirt and I want, for a few ladies in America to say, oh yeah, wow, look at that guy. He's kind of hot. The last couple of times I went out there, you're thinking, I don't want people to like take off my shirt and people to go, ooh, gross, something like that. And so it is, there's that vain aspect of it. Oh yeah. When I saw myself on 23, I was like, what the hell's that tire around my midsection for, man? That's crazy. I was like, whoa, I've gained a few pounds there. Anyway, but, so I actually think it has more to do with the fact that when you go out there and you're in starvation mode, your metabolism doesn't know what it's doing. And when you play it multiple times, like right now, my metabolism is probably that of a 70-year-old man because, I eat food. My body says you're not going to have food tomorrow. My mind says you're not going to have food tomorrow. I want to pack it away. And so I have a tendency to overeat and, eat a lot of sweets and, that kind of stuff. So, I work out like crazy, so I don't get, too big. So I don't know, maybe it's a veteran move. Maybe, a person like Boston Rob, he doesn't need to go out there. What's going to impress us about Boston Rob? He's a great athlete. He's got a great, sharp mind. He's really good at puzzles. He's like the total package. He can use people and make them feel special. So, the guy like him, that's what we're going to be impressed with. He knows that he's not going to take off his shirt the first day, but he's going to be like, oh, yeah, Boston Bob, you hot, man. So he doesn't really have to worry about that. But I guarantee you that if somebody like Tyson went out there again, what's he going to do? he's going to go out there ripped, lean, and, ready for fighting action. And he wants that first day taken off his shirt for people to go, oh, snap. Same as Malcolm, same as other people like that. I think it just kind of goes with, what you want your perception to be when you go out there. And, if you're married and have kids, you probably don't give a rip as much as if you're single and trying to be that icon of beauty and Greek god and goddess type stature like Malcolm, I'm sure, when he went out there this last time, probably checked himself in the mirror maybe 50, 60 times a day, doing sit-ups and crunches and putting his hair just right. I get it. I'm not slamming him for that. Hey, all the ladies love him. It's in his head, and I think that that's now going to be a part of his MO. But
well,
anyway,
for Malcolm, forget taking off his shirt. He's taking off his pants, too.
Exactly. He definitely wants to be that sex symbol. And, hey, who can blame him? He's a good-looking guy, and, I'm jealous that another long-haired guy come out there.
Yeah, I was going to say, Coach, I think you seem to have a thing for these long-haired guys between Eric and Malcolm and Tyson. This is the coach archetype.
I guess so. I never thought it, but maybe I'm secretly trying to live vicariously through those guys and their endeavors and their physiques. Because, man, I'm 41 now. I'm like halfway through my life at least.
Yeah. All right. So I want to talk to you a lot about Philip, because Philip is somebody that you have been compared to, and he has been compared to you, and vice versa. And so, we really thought you coming into your third season, into South Pacific, we had a little bit of you had a different reputation, I think. And tell me if you agree or disagree with what I'm saying. But the reputation of you coming into South Pacific is that, oh, Coach, he's wacky. And he tells all these stories, and he gets on people's nerves sometimes, and he does all of these, he's going to do the Coach Chi and going to do a lot of, kooky stuff out there, which we saw a lot of in your first season and in Heroes versus Villains. But then come South Pacific, we didn't see as much as that stuff. And we saw a lot of kooky stuff from Philip the first time around, and we expected, okay, here comes more of the same, and we're expecting Philip to come into the game and play a similar game to what he played in his first time around. And it seems like we see an evolution to Philip, not unlike the evolution of Coach that we saw between Heroes versus Villains and South Pacific.
Well, I will just, if you would rephrase the question, Your Honor, or possibly start your opening argument in a different vein, you do not compare Bach to Tchaikovsky, because Bach was the original. Tchaikovsky came 200 years later. You don't say that Plato certainly emulates Michelangelo, because Michelangelo came 700 years later. So you cannot compare Coach to Philip. You must compare Philip to Coach.
Duly noted.
I was the original. Now, that being said, Philip is an original. A lot of people said that he ripped off my shtick. If he did, imitation is the finest form of flattery. I love it if he ripped off my shtick. I think that I think that you will see crazy with Philip this year, because that's what all the promos are like. I don't think that he's crazy. I think that he's a very unique guy. I think that he's got an amazing character that he crafted that first time, and I would like to kind of see him stick with it. But I would imagine that, like most of us, he looks at that first time and says, well, I'm going to break out of the mold and come and do something different. And if that's what he does, more power to him. For me, I just did 3 different times, and we've talked about this before, but I did 3 different times, 3 totally different ways. I went out there and said, this is what I'm going to do, and I did it all 3 times, and I feel really fortunate to have done that when there's so many variables out there. You go out the first time and say, I want to be one of the biggest characters to ever be on Survivor, and you do that, and you craft your image, and then the next time you want to go out there and show people that you're a human being and that you're a sensitive guy, and well, I broke down out there and, was bawling like a baby, and I certainly showed that part probably a little bit too much. And then, the last time I said, well, I'm just going to be how I am in my everyday life, and I'm going to go out there and try to own the game and try to show the fans that, hey, I can actually play the game. So Philip is smart. Philip is, when you meet him and he smiles and, in his everyday life, he is engaging. And that's kind of the thing about Survivor, is that when you go out on Survivor, your personality in real life sometimes doesn't translate to being out there. I've struggled with, hey, I'm a leader in real life. Why am I not a leader out here? Philip, I'm sure, thought, I'm very charming in real life. Why am I not charming out here? So we all kind of struggle with that. And And real-life personality success does not necessarily translate to Survivor life personality trait success.
Now, the common denominator for me with both of you guys, in between the time that I feel like we saw the biggest transformation, I feel like with you from Heroes versus Villains to South Pacific, and obviously Philip's only played the game once, is that you both shared an experience with a certain man from Boston. Now, Philip quoted the BR rules. Now, were you aware of the BR rules? Did those impact your gameplay in South Pacific? Because from an outside observer, I think you certainly did follow the BR rules in South Pacific, which were, as Philip said, rule number 1, make an alliance. Rule number 2, make an alliance within the alliance. And rule number 3, get rid of your alliance before they get rid of you.
I wasn't really thinking about it in those terms, actually, but that's very smart, and that's great. That's a great play. The only thing that I was thinking about is that I was just thinking that, if you make an alliance of 5 and you stick to it, then it's going to be unbreakable. I was thinking more, actually, what influenced me on my season 23 was just my first experience, and just from, the first two. I mean, the first time I went out there, I made an alliance, but it wasn't very good. It wasn't very shaky because I was doing too much crazy stuff. And so I didn't instill that loyalty in that group of people. And when we got to the merge, numbers up, 6-3 at one point, we were eliminated all of ourselves. And the Timbira tribe was no longer at the end. And there was the 3 Jalapal that made it to the final 3. Is that right? No, I'm sorry. Aaron was one. But anyway, we had that shift. And so we lost our numbers edge. The second time I went in, I didn't make a fast alliance. I tried to play in the middle. With Jerry and I, we were kind of swing votes, and then that burned me in the end as well. So I guess my thought was, hey, I want to go out there and I want to get a 5, and I want to be loyal to that 5, and I want to preach to them every day that there's safety in this awareness of 5, and this is the people that we're going to go to the end with, and we're not going to deviate. As much as I wanted to keep Cochran and Edna around, I knew that if I did that, then everything that I had preached from day one, hey, make a final 5, make a 5, stick together, don't, turn on each other at any point in time. When we get to the final 5, then the gloves are off and we can do whatever we want to. And like Boston Rob said and Philip said, make an alliance within the alliance, which I had done quite well. And so I guess that, Boston Rob is one of the greatest players of all time. There's no question about that. I have an immense amount of respect for him and how he plays the game, and just him as an individual. And with Philip as well, I have respect for him. I have respect for his values of entertainment on TV. And, I think that when people saw Heroes and Villains and they saw me being really sensitive and not necessarily the coach of token teams, I think people were disappointed a little bit. They want to see that. Do we want to see Russell come out there and be, hey, guys, you know what, I'm going to play with honor and integrity? No, we don't want to see that. We're brought back for a certain way. And that was one of the things with Boston Rob, even though twice he failed pretty miserably and didn't make it to the merge. To the jury or whatever, I'm pretty sure. And then the other 2 times he did really, really well. With him, it's going to be all or nothing. But he has not changed his game. It's always been the same kind of way to go out there. So I think from a fan's perspective, from a cast perspective, we want to change how we play and our image and everything else. From a fan's perspective, they just want to see the batshit crazy coach and batshit crazy Philip. The ownage of Boston Rob, the intelligence of Rob Cesternino, the physique of Tyson, the quirky, outcast mentality of Cochran, the martyrdom of Don. I mean, I could just go, you just throw me a name and I'll throw out a different way that they're perceived.
Speaking of the different way people are perceived, did you notice any change, Coach, in your old friend Brandon Hantz in the show this week, coming back a second time?
Well, here's the thing. Brandon, it was funny because I was doing a search this morning, just looking at up stuff, Survivor ratings and different things like that. And I saw this one article that said Jeff Probst says that Brandon Hantz is mentally stable enough to go back on Survivor, something like that.
Yes.
And that was interesting because, anytime that somebody's out there saying, I am not a serial killer, well, anyway, it was pretty crazy. I'm sorry, but I just, all right, so the tattoos, really interesting. he's I just feel like he's just such a great kid, and he's just got this inner conflict. I said it when I was out there, and I'm just really pulling for him. Okay. I mean, obviously, when he went out there the first time, I really appreciated playing with him. I appreciated his loyalty. I appreciated his absolute honesty. And, he's going out a second time and saying that he wants to change all that, and he wants to go out there and kind of throw that out the window, and more power to him. I feel like maybe he's gotten a little bit more unstable just because, the game does that to you. And when you go out there and you're made a fool of the first time, you say to yourself, I'm going to do whatever it takes to not be made that fool. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens with him. Again, there's only a couple of ways that this storyline can go. And he can completely redeem himself and do something that his uncle Russell has never done, and that's go all the way to the end and win it. He's obviously not the first out, but that really wouldn't be his story either. Or he's going to just go absolute Looney Tunes out there. And that's really one of two ways that his story can go poignantly.
Coach, tell me the truth. Should they have brought Brandon back?
I definitely think that they should not have brought Brandon back yet, because they need a little bit of time. He needs a little bit of time, just to kind of like acclimate, back to society. And it's like he's gone so quickly on the heels of having filmed the last one that I'm sure that there's still stuff. I mean, we saw, Russell at the finale scowling at him, and, his family wasn't very proud of him and all that kind of stuff. And so, there's so much pressure from this family to be big time reality stars. And they are. There's no doubt about that. And the more that I'm removed from Russell's game, the more appreciation that I have for the way that he plays the game, and that he has played the game. I think he's a great player. I think he's a one-of-a-kind player. And so I just think that Brandon probably, that they should have waited on that. He has babies at home. I think he had a new child, and that's a very volatile situation. It's a very volatile situation for him, and I think that is going to either increase his stability drastically out there, although it doesn't look like it, or incredibly decrease his stability out there.
Okay, now I'm glad you brought up Russell, because I want to talk about a situation that you were once in that is reminiscent of something that's going on this season. So you played on Heroes versus Villains, and you showed up on a tribe of 10 people, and they said, all right, coach, here's all your tribe mates, and here's this one guy that you've never seen before, but trust us, he was on the show last season, and he was good. So now this season, 10 returning players come back and they say to everybody, okay, here's your tribe. Oh, by the way, here's this one guy. He's new and he's going to be part of your tribe. Now, for you guys, I'm sure you were kicking yourself after the fact that you guys didn't want to get rid of Russell Hantz. It seems like that these new players are going down that same path. They don't want to get rid of Malcolm. Are they making a mistake?
I would imagine that if I were ever to be asked to go out there again in any condition, I probably would say no. I've got a family now. I just don't, you never say never, but I would say no. But if I were out there and I saw somebody out there that had never been seen before, I would cite examples like Malcolm and Russell and tell the tribe, this is what we need to do, is just to vote off a newcomer. It's the easiest thing to do. It's the most logical thing to do. And I think that because it's the most logical thing to do, we don't do what's logical. We do what's illogical. So you're right. It's a very good point. The same things happen again. And it's interesting. It's almost like, when you watch Survivor 23, I actually, for the first time, in my 3 tries at Survivor, I actually had people rooting for me, which was kind of an unusual thing to get from the general public, where they were like, Coach, we're pulling for you, man. We didn't like you the first 2 times, but man, we love you this time. We're really pulling for you. And because I was the underdog. And that's just like it in life. Nobody wants to see somebody succeed all the time. And so, people were really rooting for me. But then in the latter half of the season where I had all the power and Ozzy was on the outs with redemption and blah, 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 all of a sudden I became the bad guy again because I held all the cards. And so maybe that has something to do psychologically with survivors when they see that somebody's out there, doesn't know anybody, kind of quote unquote, not isolated, but maybe as far as alliances right off the bat because nobody knows them, they're kind of the underdogs. And so then they secretly root for them and don't want to see them get voted off. I guess it's interesting. With Russell, we knew he was evil, out there, but for some reason there was some part of us that really wanted to think that he was genuine and wanted us to think that, yeah, he really did get a raw deal the last time around, and that's why he's a villain.
And in fairness, your tribe name in that season was the Villains. These are just the favorites. So, I mean, they could say, okay, Malcolm, he's like a Colby. He's like, a guy who was he's just like a hunky guy that people rooted for. He was good in the challenges. And so you don't necessarily have to assume that Malcolm is evil. I don't think Malcolm is he's a good player, but I don't think he's an evil player that you would have to target right off the bat like Russell.
Right. I agree.
All right, now we barely even talked about the fans, and honestly, I don't even know if there's that much to talk about the fans, except for so far through one episode, because we didn't get to see too much of them. But they've got this double date alliance here with these two couples. Coach, refresh my memory, in your massive Survivor playing history, were you around any couples personally in any of your tribes?
I mean, the only real couple that that I played with were Keith and Whitney.
Yeah, and were they still together?
On the other tribe.
Okay, they were. And by the time you guys merged, was that then Keith got voted off first at the merge? Was that how that went?
He did. So for 3 days played, and they were a couple.
Yes. Okay. So, and Coach, did you that breaking news? Apparently, Keith and Whitney are engaged now.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Man, I hope she doesn't go back on Survivor because that would be the disaster of that. So let's hope that they don't ask her to come back. That would be
Coach,
great.
Look at you. Yeah. So how bad of an idea? Now, okay, so you were around one showmance. It ended 3 days later. So is that your verdict? The showmance, the bad idea on Survivor?
People are out there for different reasons, and there are people that are out there. When you're young and you're, wondering, hey, man, there's a lot of good-looking people that are out there on the show. Yeah. And so, there's always that possibility, I think, is that, young person, you're always looking, what if, right? Is my soulmate out there? Is always the question that you ask yourself until you find your soulmate. And so, it's like, it's not really a good idea, but how can you, I love Nietzsche, and one of my favorite quotes from him is, if I can even remember it, it is, there is always madness in love, but there is also reason in madness. I believe that's it. When I go out on Survivor, people think, wow, this guy, like, this philosopher, knows all these people. I just memorize 100 quotes before I go out there, different than the last time, and make myself sound like I'm halfway intelligent. So I think that that's a quote. If I were going out on another season, I would have it at the tip of my finger, and I would be able to throw it out at you, and you'd be like, wow, this guy really has studied philosophers.
Yes.
Anyway,
yes.
So there's reason in madness, but there's madness in love, something like that. And so, there's reason to it, but there's madness, and who's the judge of the affairs of the heart, right? I mean, it just happens, and it's hard to control. But what is really cool is that we've not seen, the problem with a single couple is that they are a target immediately. But if you have two couples, then you become four, and it's very interesting. I think that we'll see more of the fans as it's developed. Of course, right now, it's like, of course, we're going to, think about the favorites because we've seen them before. We're wondering how they're going to be. They're proven characters, right? I mean, in the fans versus favorite, in the early part, the fans are a little bit relegated, and we're focused on the favorites because you know them and they're a known quantity and they're good for airtime and they're going to get the sound bites and they're going to give the producers what they want for the storyline. And they don't know about the other ones, but as the other ones kind of progress and get their feet wet out there, the Dragon Slayer wasn't the Dragon Slayer episode 1. It took 9 episodes for that to happen. But you get comfortable. The producers say, ooh, I see this guy's a little bit eccentric, so we're going to push the boundaries of that eccentricity. And, of course, you're out there saying, oh, yeah, man, this is really cool. They love me. I mean, Dragon Slayer, well, of course. I mean, who wouldn't want to go by that nickname? Who wouldn't want to go out here and talk about warriors and, wizards and princesses? I mean, isn't that just normal? Because out here, the producers are telling me that it's normal. So we haven't seen that yet with the with the fans. And so as they get comfortable and as the producers see who is gold and who's not, then you're going to see their characters start to emerge. So, I mean, it's probably too early to really talk about them, but I do like the idea of 2 showmances going on at the same time and bonding together, because it could be a strong pact that they have.
Yeah, in the original fans versus favorites, you had the Parvati and James plus Ozzy and Amanda, and they were able to bring one more person over in Suri. I know we know a lot of people were on Twitter were making jokes about how the 4-person think they have a majority over the group of 10, and obviously they don't. But we'll see how it all plays out. But Coach, I know you've only got a certain amount of time, so I want to jump into some of these questions that came to us from our listeners on our Facebook fan page. If you haven't liked us yet on Facebook, you can go to facebook.com/Rob Has a Podcast. So, Coach, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, and then, Coach, you let me know when you're running out of time. Okay, here we go. Let's start to fire away. Here we go. Let's start with a quick one. Better nickname: Hercules or the intelligence attaché? Trevor Chong gives us that one.
Intelligence attaché. That's a nickname has to be not more than 4 syllables.
Yeah.
And the intelligent attaché is 8. I've got to go with Hercules. It's a good one. The only reason why I said 4 syllables, can you guess, Rob, why I said that a nickname
Dragon Slayer?
Thank you. Next question, please.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Hercules better nickname for than intelligence attaché, because I mean, calling Cochran Hercules is like, you have like a the 7-foot tall guy that you call tiny. It's right. You've gone against type, as opposed to Philip's nickname for Cochran, which is right on the nose. So I'll go Hercules is the better nickname. Okay. Matt Curran wants to know, Coach, who from this season needs to hold on to their butt cheeks to get started? That was your famous quote from the first episode of Survivor South Pacific.
Francesca.
Well, yes, she needs.
It's too late.
It's too late. She should have been holding on from the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay. How about this? This is from Kurt with a K. He wants to know, can you give any advice to castaways who might have to potentially deal with Brandon Hantz in the future? Or if he makes the family challenge, those that will have to deal with Sean Hantz coming to visit. All right, we'll take this one at a time. All right, so does somebody need to sit Brandon down and get the prayer circle going and give him the marching orders for what's going on in the game?
Mm-hmm. You cannot, once a loose cannon has been lit, there's no way to snuff out that wick to keep it from happening. You can't sit in the face of a cannon and say, listen, I just want to rationalize with you for you not to go off. It's not going to happen. And so I don't really think that there's a way to rein in Brandon Hantz. Can you tell him to, hey, just relax? Or if you start doing the religious part again, he's going to freak out because, that's kind of what burned him the first time. I don't know. I mean, I think that the only way at this point to manage Brandon would be to sit him down and just say, listen, man, you're one of the greatest players to ever play the game. And this time out here, you're going to prove that, and you're going to outdo Russell by 10 times.
Yeah.
It's your road to glory. You pave it. Let me help you pave it. And that's probably one way that you could manage him, because I think that's really important to him.
But that's what you did, Coach. And he's almost like sort of like a troubled youth, and you come in and you tell Brandon, okay, Brandon, here's what's going on. Here's what the plan is. It doesn't look like anybody's doing that right now. And left to his own devices, as we saw in the preview, it looks like he's going to go bonkers. I don't know if Ice Cream Scooper Eric is going to be able to keep him under control. I mean, if somebody isn't, taking him under the wing and saying, hey, Brandon, here's what needs to happen, he will self-destruct.
And So then the question becomes, who out there on that tribe is capable of managing him? I mean, who is capable of managing, quote unquote, I say managing, I don't want to insult him because I think Philip is really brilliant in a lot of ways. But, his craziness, Boston Rob was able to handle that craziness. But how many other people could?
Could Brandon be Philip's Philip?
No. No, you can't throw, oil and water together and expect them to, feed off of each other. They're going to, so no, I don't think so. I think that there's not anybody on that tribe. Philip's dealing with his own issues. Okay. Hercules is scared shitless just to make it to the next, to the next day and hopefully realize that, yes, he can get a hold of this game and he can control this game if he uses his mind. And I think he's starting to see that, but he's still, scared shitless and he's not a leader. So he's not going to be able to collar Brandon and run with it. Corinne, she doesn't have time for that kind of BS. Eric certainly
ain't nobody got time for that.
No. So Phillips, too wrapped up in his own issues and what he wants to prove out there this time. Anyway, so QED, there's nobody else out there that's really going to be able to do that.
Do you find it interesting that your other two South Pacific buddies, Cochran and Dawn, don't seem to want to have anything to do with Brandon?
That does not surprise me in the least.
Yeah. They were from the other tribe, to be fair, but Cochran and Brandon had a relationship on South Pacific.
Sure. Whatever you say, man. I think that they don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. I think, because you got to be very careful who you're with out there and who you want to handle, because it could easily blow up in your face. So I think they're just keeping him at arm's length. That's what I would say.
Okay, this question is from Eric Uxelanin. He wants to know, does Coach think Cochran will recite the DS playbook, the Dragon Slayer playbook? Now, we saw Philip talking about the returning player he played with, Boston Rob. Cochran perhaps learned at the knee of Coach Wade on South Pacific. Will Cochran be reciting the DS playbook?
I would say probably not. I think that he's going to want to forge his own way this time, even though it would be amazing if he would quote me and say, hey, this is what Coach did, but I didn't really do anything that brilliant. I just said, hey, let's have an alliance of 5 go to the end and keep everybody in line. So I don't think there's any brilliance that he can quote from me out there.
But Coach, don't sell yourself short here, because I think it's underrated, and we talk a lot about, Cochran deciding to flip. But that episode I watched where you talked to Cochran about getting him to flip, that whole monologue you have about, would you draw a line in the sand, and that whole thing was pretty amazing. Probably one of the best sales speeches I think I've ever heard on Survivor. So that was a tremendous job you did right there, Coach.
I appreciate that. It's just been so long ago that happened that it seems as if the glory fades into the distance as soon as the next cast is cast. And, the legends like Boston Rob and all those other great players, I'll just never quite measure up to them.
Coach, you played after Boston Rob.
No, I know that, actually. And, I say that, but, I actually don't think very many people could have done what I did coming in. But it wasn't recognized, and I didn't win. So, second place is for losers.
Huh.
What can I say?
All right, well, this leads me into the next question. Eric Corbridge wants to know, not a question, but Coach, he just wanted to say that South Pacific was your greatest symphony. It's too bad that Ponderosa doesn't know the difference between a symphony and a sophony. Oh, I don't even know what a sophony is. So maybe you could explain that. But Coach, should you have won South Pacific?
I don't think that there's a question about that. Sophie is Sophie. You have to have the social game, which Sophie didn't have.
Is that what he's doing? Is that a sophony? Is that what he's trying to say there? I guess there.
That must
a symphony and a
sophony.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh well. Hey, the thing is this. Yeah. Here's the thing. Okay. I don't want to go back on Survivor, and it's only when the final episode airs and I'm watching the jury and how happy they are to have gotten screwed up the backside, and they willingly give somebody $1 million without being bitter. I think to myself, If only I would have had that jury. It comes down a lot to the psyche of the people on the jury in terms of who's going to win the game. And I say that with all due respect. Boston Rob's jury, they were like, okay, people are complaining, honor, integrity, et cetera, et cetera. And I wish I hadn't used those words the last 3 weeks I was out there either. But, it's like, that's me. That's how I did play. I tried to play as honorably as possible. And, but the jury gets better. Or they just are like, hey, you know what? We got duped, and we're going to give this guy $1 million. Boston Rob had a great jury. The season after that was mine, bitter jury. Think about it. I've got a dope dealer, Jim, right? He's a dope dealer.
I think he has a license, to be fair.
No, hold on a second, man. You don't stop me, man. I'm not ready to get on a
Go
roll
for it. All right, you go.
Some golden eggs. Keith and Whitney, adulterers, and whatever. That's like, okay, so let's discount them. You've got Ozzy, who's a great waiter. I think he's very skilled at what he does, putting together card tricks and that kind of stuff. He's awesome at that. And he's a total narcissistic, et cetera, et cetera. Brandon, totally loopy. As we will see the lack of his mental stability on this one here. Dawn was sick and checked out, and she barely even asked a question at Tribal. So if you look at those members of the jury, how am I going to win? How in the world am I going to be able to convince that kind of a jury as to why I should get $1 million? It's not going to happen. Then you watch the jury after me, not bitter, going to vote do the right thing. And so, you see that enough times and you say to yourself, well, the bitterness of the jury with the last couple of people voted out, that kind of permeates the entire way that the jury's going to vote. So do I think I should have won? Well, of course. But if you ask Sophie, should she have won? She would have said yes. And if you ask Albert, should he have won? He would have said yes. And like any good survivor out there, they're going to say, I should have won. Mm-hmm. So, I played the best game. I played from start to finish the best game. And it just wasn't in the cards. So that means that the accomplishments that I had out there are decreased and lessened. And when somebody out there few and far between says, hey, you played a great game in season 23, you flipped Cochran, that was a great episode, da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, it was. But, can't dwell on those things. Got to dwell on the future.
Dwell on the future. Coach, I think you had a no-win situation in that spot there because, you had all these people that you could have gone to the end with, and I understand why you did what you did, because you got Ozzy coming like a freight train coming back from Redemption Island, and you want to keep Sophie and Albert around because you feel like, hey, I gotta, keep, somebody's got to beat Ozzy, and I have a better chance somebody's going to beat Ozzy in that last immunity. Because if Ozzy gets to the end, you got all those Savaii people on the jury, and they're going to vote. They're going to vote for you. But at the same time, then you get rid of Ozzy, but then the jury has other people that they possibly could vote for, as opposed to when Boston Rob took Philip and Natalie to the end. Nobody could have even written any of their names down because that there was no way they could have given any of them the money and been. Anybody looked at them with a straight face ever again. So it was
true.
Tough. It was a tough spot for you, Coach.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's true.
Okay, so how about this? Chris Madison wants to know, Coach, as something of a philosophy student yourself, as you mentioned, what did you make of Philip comparing himself to Machiavelli during the show when he was talking about getting rid of Francesca? Now, Coach, I know you gotta be annoyed. Now Philip is quoting philosophers on the show.
All right, so he is stealing my shtick. Let's just face it, okay? It's just the gloves are off, Philip. I forgot about that. That's it, Philip. The gloves are off. Stop ripping me off. So anyway, that's funny. Hey, again, imitating is the finest form of flattery. So thanks, Philip. I appreciate you wanting to go out there and emulate what I've carved in the ways of path before you. So let's do one more question, and then I gotta go.
Okay. So how about let me go with I'll go with a serious one. Mark O'Callaghan Jr. wants to know, do you think it's easier for a returning player to go on a season where it's only 2 or 3 returning players, or a season like All-Stars or Fans versus Favorites where you are with all other returning players?
Yeah, without a question. Coach's rule of Survivor 305 is this. When you go out there for the first time, you are interested in making friends, in bonding with people, in making alliances, in building shelter, in finding food. And that's what you're concerned about. When you go back And so in other words, when you play with just 2 or 3 returning players and the rest is a brand new cast, it becomes enjoyable again. And you do have the upper hand because of your experience. When you go out there with all returning players, they are so serious about ripping your head off and stuffing it down your throat and making as many alliances as possible and playing the game as hard as they can from day one. Then that is, it's really difficult to play that way. The Heroes and Villains was my least favorite Survivor, whether it was because I was on the Villains tribe, whether it was just because I just didn't get dealt a good deck of hands with Tyson voting himself off and me in the middle and just flipping over to Russell's side and that unknown quantity. Whether it was that or just because people just really didn't care about making true friendships out there, it was not one of my favorite seasons.
All right, here it's Coach Wade. Philip isn't the only one with a book out. If you want to check out some of Coach's adventures in Coach's book, No Turning Back, you can get that book on Amazon. Go to the link, robasawebsite.com/Dragonslayer. How about that, Coach?
I love it.
Yeah. Whose book is better, yours or Philip's book?
Well, Philip's book is on order, so I have to read it first.
Yes.
But of course, mine is based on a true story, and his is based on fantasy. So I don't know. He might have a great book. It might be. I'm actually really looking forward to reading it. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you who's got a better cover. He's got a better cover than me, man.
Yeah.
That cover that he's got is an awesome cover, man. He looks handsome and sharp, and man, that's a cool cover. I told him that when I saw that.
I'm holding your book, and
awesome.
And they don't have a good picture of you. They need they have the young picture of you from when you did it. We need the nice headshot right on the front, like Philip's book.
There you go. I know. I wish I had that. I don't think I'm as photogenic as Philip. When I saw that picture, I was like, damn, this guy looks good.
Yeah, he does look good on that. Yeah. All right. So, Coach, thank you so much. Appreciate all the time, and have a great symphony tonight.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, Rob.
All right. Take care, Coach.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. All right, everybody. There you have it. That was Coach Wade, the author of No Turning Back and the 3-time Survivor player. And speaking of Philip's book, if you want to check out Philip's new novel, that's also available on Amazon. You can go ahead and read The Specialist, The Costa Rica Job, and you can get that also on Amazon if you go to our link, robhasawebsite.com/specialist. So now for you guys, we have a special treat. We're being joined here by the First Lady of Podcasting. You've been asking for her. Here she is. It's Nicole Cesternino. Nicole, how are you?
Hello, everybody.
Nicole, welcome back to the first episode of the new season of Rob as a Podcast.
It feels so good to be back.
Yes, season number 7 back together.
For us?
For season 7. Yes, it's 26 for the show, but you and I have been podcasting since Heroes versus
7
Villains.
seasons. Wowzer.
Yes, the 7th season. So how do you like that, Nicole?
It's crazy.
Yeah. So we're still doing good.
Yeah, we're still going strong.
Still hanging in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We took a break.
You took a break.
Yes, I did.
And again, not from our relationship. Not like a Ross and Rachel type of break.
Okay.
Why, is that what you were talking about?
Oops.
All right. I don't even know what you're talking about. Here, what I do know about is this podcast is sponsored by our friends over at Audible, who have been great friends of Robin's Podcast over the last couple of months. And I love audiobooks. And everybody knows that because audiobooks are much better because reading is boring.
Yes.
But audiobooks are fun because you can do other stuff. You can be walking. And if you're ADD, audiobooks are the best way to read.
Yes. I used to make fun of you for listening to audiobooks, but I have recently taken a different approach to that.
Yes, you realize, as in many things, that you know that I am right.
No, not really. Just this one thing.
Audible is the internet's best place to be getting audiobooks because the subscription to Audible is going to be cheaper. If you're listening to one audiobook a month, it's going to be cheaper than going on iTunes for whatever audiobook you're going to be downloading. And it's good because you always have something fresh to listen to in the because God forbid I don't make a podcast.
I know. You'll get complaints.
You'll get complaints. Get the complaints. So if you have an Audible, you always have something new, and you're actually could be learning something or hearing an actual piece of art if you're listening to a book. Mm-hmm. We'll have to see if Philip Shepard's book is on. We have to get that on Audible.
That's what I'm waiting for right now.
Yeah. Well, the book that I have right now is called The 4-Hour Body, Nicole, by Tim Ferriss.
I know.
Yes. Now, he is the author of the 4-Hour Work Week,
Right.
which is a very famous book.
That I agree with.
Yes, and you don't really agree with the 4-hour body, but the premise of the 4-hour body is really what is the least amount of work you need to do to be able to get any sort of results.
Yeah, and that's why I don't like it.
Yes, well, that is, look, if you're a lazy person like me, this is a great book for you. So
you're
kudos.
too busy podcasting to work out.
Yes, that's right. So kudos to Tim Ferriss for lazy people like me. So if you want to get great books like this, go check out over 100,000 books that are available to you, and you'll get a free audiobook download when you sign up. The link is audiblepodcast.com/RHAP.
Is the Coach book on Audible?
I don't think so. I don't think Coach's book is on Audible yet, or Jeff Probst's.
Yes.
Jeff Probst's book, Stranded. So I think you have to get like a certain number of. If you look at it on Amazon, it says, "Would you like to have this book on Audible?" So you can request for them to do.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, they're sort of tied in together, Audible and Amazon.
Oh, that's cool.
All right, Nicole. So we got a lot of stuff to get to here.
What a crazy episode.
What a crazy episode. Now, I spoke with Coach, and we talked a lot about the favorites. We didn't talk too much about the fans.
What's to really talk about?
Yeah, that's what I kind of said. I mean,
what's to really talk about?
I mean, we've got a lot of episodes to go. We got 10 fans to go. Do you feel like that, from what you saw, do you have hopes for these fans?
They're living on Douche Island.
Yes. Oh, you did not care for the fans.
I did not care for the fans.
Yes. You did not like Eddie and Reynolds?
First of all, math is not their strong suit. They obviously don't know how to add to build a strong alliance.
Yeah.
And it was like they were in a club and like in the corner, like just making out.
Well, not the guys with the guys.
No, we didn't see that.
We did not see that. Yeah, there's a little bit of hooking up on the first night. That's right.
And it was like dirty hooking up too. Like there was ass grabbing. Like there was a lot of like groping. And you really didn't even see it coming.
I was under the impression you liked that.
You were under that impression.
Oh, that was somebody else?
Yes.
Yeah. So what do you think of this guy? Who is it? Eddie that was talking about that him and Hope. Hey, we're the two best looking people here. So we got to get together.
Yeah. What a douche.
He's like, it's not even up for debate. We're the best looking people here.
What kind of thing is that to say?
I don't know. It's the kind of thing that Eddie would say. I had not high hopes for Eddie preseason. I have lower hopes.
What did
Eddie.
we say about him?
Well, I said that I thought he had no chance whatsoever to win.
What did I say?
I think you were in agreement, but you were a little more bullish on him than I was.
More bullish?
Yes, you liked him.
Did I?
More. You liked him more than I did.
Okay, well, I retract that statement.
You retracted. And Reynolds, I had high hopes for Reynolds, and I think you did not. You said Reynolds was a snoozer.
Yeah.
He's not been a snoozer. He's a good sandbagger.
Yeah. Yes.
Usually that's what people say about me. I'm a good sandbagger.
Yeah, that's usually what they say.
Yeah. But anyway,
one of the things.
Yeah, and then he's with Allie. So Reynolds and Allie are together. So lots of hooking up on Fan Island.
It's makeout party.
You know, in the original Fans versus Favorites, it was the favorites that were hooking up and had this sort of, power couple.
But that wasn't until later.
No, it was in the beginning that Parvati and James were together and Ozzy and Amanda got together.
So I feel
and
like
then they
that came
pulled in
later.
Suri.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, they pulled in Suri to the...
Not to the hooking up.
Oh.
Not to the hooking up. To the group
that
of
would have been
five.
awkward.
Yeah, and then on the other side you had like Penner and Yao Man and Amy and Eliza and those people.
Yeah.
And Suri was like the swing vote. It was like she could have gone with those four. She could have gone with the couples, and she went with the power couples.
Yeah.
So, but those were the power players, like those power couples.
These aren't going to be the power players.
Yeah, I watched Ozzy on with Parvati. Parvati, the new host of...
She did a great job.
She did do a great job.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if Ozzy saw the episode, though.
It doesn't matter.
Ozzy, I don't know what Ozzy was talking about a little bit, but Parvati was great.
Yes. Well, that's why he was like proposing to her to distract you from him not seeing the episode.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, so Parvati did a great job. If you didn't check it out, make sure you check
CBS.com.
Yeah.
Watch Miss Survivor 2012, Parvati Shallow, the new host.
Moving on to great things.
Yes. All right, Nicole. So speaking of moving on to great things, boy, I've been so excited about what's been going on with this new season of Survivor for a number of reasons, but boy, we have not talked much about Twitter or what the survivors are saying on this podcast in quite some time. Really,
right.
It was at a boiling point, or probably around South Pacific.
I'm surprised Twitter didn't crash the night of Survivor.
It was like when we first started doing this podcast, it was during Heroes versus Villains, and like not a lot of survivors were on Twitter at that point.
Right.
So then, as Twitter became more popular, there weren't a lot of. It's like returning players plus social media equals a lot of fun for this podcast.
Equals a lot of F-bombs.
A lot of survivors fighting on Twitter. So South Pacific was really the height of it, and you had like Russell calling out Brandon, calling out Cochran. You know, a lot of stuff going on Twitter. Then afterwards, though, then we really didn't have, you know, a ton of stuff. Then we had Survivor One World, and really the returning players, there were no returning players. So there was not, you know, it's like, hey, this Kim is thinks she's something else,
right?
You know, but it was nothing to speak of.
And it was a love fest on that island,
especially once Colton went out.
Yeah.
So there really wasn't much to talk about. Hey, this Tarzan is really crazy. So there wasn't much to talk about there. Then in season 25, other than, you know, we had a little bit of the scooping artists flare up a little bit on Twitter.
Yeah, but that wasn't even that hyped.
And then our current Miss Survivor, you know, that we have like with the Pete and Abby Marie and that stuff, but that wasn't too bad.
Where is Miss Survivor during this whole thing? Isn't she the peacemaker? Shouldn't she be stepping in?
Well, we may need to get our reigning Miss Survivor RC to help step in with all of these Twitter fighting. But you know what? Here's the thing, the confessional. I like the fighting. I like it. I don't.
It gives us something to talk about.
It is fun to talk about. Okay, so
except with the name calling.
Yes. Okay. So we're going to get to. So a lot of people say, "Hey, look, Rob, you're the only Survivor that I follow on Twitter because I know you are not going to tweet spoilers."
Right.
And that is true. On my honor, no spoilers. Now I will.
But you don't even know spoilers.
I don't know spoilers, and I certainly wouldn't tweet them. But okay. But let me put the one asterisk, okay? Because I got some S from people the other day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did.
Shocker, you got some S.
Yes, I get a lot. I get. You know, I'd say probably. Most people are very nice on Twitter, but about 30% of the tweets that come to me are either complaints or just outright nasty.
Or they're like plain douche-tastic.
Yeah. It's just like, really, Rob? Like, you know. Yeah. So the other day I tweeted the link to the Francesca interview, and I had in the URL I created on the website. You know, I get rusty in between seasons. I forget the right way I'm supposed to do it. And normally I name the file, again, this is super boring stuff, but usually the file name, if you go to it's robhasawebsite.com/the season, and then the person that gets voted out, and Twitter shortens the name. But I put it the wrong order. And so if you looked at my tweet, it was robhasawebsite.com/Francesca Hoji Survivor or whatever interview. So you could see Francesca's name in the URL, and I started getting tweets from people. Oh, how dare you? This is a spoiler. But let me just say, I understand if you didn't see the episode that I ruined it for you. I get that.
That wasn't a spoiler.
Not a spoiler.
Yeah.
If I'm talking about
something
wasn't
a prediction,
that happened on TV yesterday, not a spoiler. It's not a spoiler.
Okay.
That's not a spoiler.
I see where you're going with that.
That's not a spoiler.
Okay.
Like, hey, you ruined it for me. Hey, not cool. But I'm just saying.
You spoiled it for them.
Yes. And you know what? But not for anything. If you are in this scenario, and this is real talk, okay, Nicole? This is real talk.
This is real talk.
Okay? If you're somebody who didn't watch Survivor, and you follow Survivors on Twitter, and you're going on Twitter, and you're relying on Survivors not to talk about what happened in the episode that was on yesterday, you know, you're playing with fire.
And you know what? Yesterday was Valentine's Day. Rob's head was in the clouds.
My head wasn't in the game. My head wasn't in the game. So I'll do my best to try, I'll try to do a bit.ly.whatever on the links when I tweet out the exit interviews. But I'm just saying, if you haven't...
But it's been a while since you've done that. We had an off season.
Yeah. So in summation, two things.
Uh-oh.
We've got so much to get to. I don't know why I decided to go on my soapbox. But two things. One,
that's what you do
number
best.
one, if I'm talking about something that already happened on the show and it's the next day, not a spoiler. And
get your vocab right.
And two, if you don't want to know who got kicked off of Survivor, don't go on Twitter until you watch the episode.
Mm-hmm. Stay off the internet.
Yeah, that's what I do.
If you have time for the internet, why aren't you watching Survivor?
Well, yeah. Okay, so those are the two things with that. Okay, so just to explain my thoughts on that. All right, so Nicole, we had a lot going on here this week so a lot of this, and I talked about this with Francesca a little bit. Mm-hmm. So a lot of animosity coming towards Andrea Don't call me Baliki. Andrea Belke caught a lot of heat on Twitter. Anyway, so what I was saying was that a lot of people, they don't follow other survivors on Twitter because they don't want them to spoil anything.
Right.
And so they had asked, I had talked about basically the last 24 hours on Twitter were really crazy. And so people had said, could you give us a little bit of an update on all of the fireworks that were going on?
Yes.
And I said, gladly.
We would love to.
We would like nothing more.
But you know what? I'm looking at your board of the survivors.
Yes.
And on the top it has Philip, Corinne, Malcolm, and Andrea, and on the bottom it has Francesca, Brandon, Eric, and Brenda.
Right.
And it's like, really, Andrea was supposed to go with these strategic masterminds?
All right, well, we'll get it.
I just struck me here. Looking
Anyway,
at this.
so a lot of backlash towards Andrea from a few different sources.
Yeah.
Okay. So so we had a lot of stuff that, usually we read the tweets at the end of the show, but I've got, so much of this stuff coming in. So basically, the friends of Francesca went on Twitter and really ripped Andrea a new one. Mm-hmm. So we'll start with Russell Hantz. And honestly, I'm not even going to read these.
They were very vulgar.
They were very vulgar. There's about 3 or 4 words that I won't even say on the podcast.
Right.
That I'm going to say. So, and I'm all for it. Look, I'm all for the drama.
A little war here and there, yeah.
I love seeing the survivors rip each other on Twitter. But I gotta call Russell out here.
Yeah.
Because I think Russell's hilarious.
We love Russell on
and
the podcast.
I love Russell's tweets, but I thought he was over the line.
It was over the line
with Andrea.
Yeah.
With Andrea.
Especially because the words he was using, like there was no reason to call her that.
Yeah.
There was no reason.
But the funny thing is, it's like if she did this to Brandon, I don't think he'd be this mad. He
would be like, "Yeah, Andrea's the best."
Yeah, no, but he did seem to be pro Brandon on Twitter. Let me see if I have any that I could read. Please, Andrea, WTF? Tell me, did that help you? You stupid. What's another word? You're such a follower. You can never win this game. You stupid B word. Like. Really, like that's too far, far.
And that wasn't even that bad of a tweet.
Yeah, just for the people that weren't on this season, like relax, just take a chill pill.
Like guys, it's just a game.
You weren't on for well, it's just a game
that you weren't playing.
Save that for the people who were in the game.
Yeah.
Like if Francesca was on Twitter, like, hey, you know what, you're Andrea, you're a stupid, you know what, or whatever. Then we'd say, okay, you know what, Francesca, it's just a game.
Right.
But to the people who weren't even in the game.
Yeah.
Like really.
It's not real life.
It's not real life, but we love it.
Keep it coming.
So we love it. We encourage
without the name calling.
Yeah, so anyway.
But Andrea did take the high road. She just, she tweeted with her head up and just did her thing.
Yes. Russell also going after Malcolm on Twitter. He said, by the way, the B word, Malcolm sucks, did nothing, but I get it, dude. Not everyone can do that. I'm not sure exactly. Some of these are out of context, but you get the saying. So Russell is all over Andrea on Twitter.
And Malcolm.
And a lot of people. So then also another person that is all over Andrea on Twitter is Eliza.
Mm-hmm. Who was in China?
Who's in China? Who's very close with Francesca. So she's in China with Francesca. We get where she's coming from, but she is very much anti Andrea on Twitter. Really, it seems like the former Wine and Cheese Alliance. Yeah. Yes, that's the real game of Survivor. That's the real game. Yeah. Nicole, at some point, if we can ever get fun, I'd like to make a documentary called "The Rise and Fall of the Wine and Cheese Alliance." And one day we'll get all the real stories. Did she bring the wrong cheese to the party? I don't know what happened. But we'll see. All I can think of is that at one of those wine and cheese parties that they used to have in New York, that somebody raised a glass and said, "Hey, if any of us are ever on Survivor together, it's us to the end. It's wine and cheese or die." and Andrea broke the blood pact, it looks like. Well, you can't break the blood pact. Yeah. Okay, so here's some of the tweets from Eliza. And of course, some of them were deleted. So yes. Well, that's a little bit of a pet peeve of mine. If you're going to put stuff on Twitter, don't delete it. Man up. Keep it out. Keep it out there. So Eliza, she says, let me find some of the good ones. She said, okay, talks about Cochran. She says, do you love when people laugh at their own puns/jokes? Because I don't. Hashtag yuck. Hashtag Cochran. Hashtag Survivor. So, boy, if Eliza doesn't like people that laugh at their own jokes, she must really probably not a listener of the podcast. And when we like Eliza.
Yeah.
We thought she was more even keel.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised.
She does get pissed sometimes.
She does have strong opinions.
She also tweets, Philip is the worst, ... then Andrea, yuck. And then Eliza also wrote like a very scathing blog of Andrea.
I read it, yes.
And on realitynation.com, Eliza writes a blog. And I pulled it. I don't know if I'm going to, how much of this, if you want to hear.
It does seem like most of the drama is not with the game, it's outside the game.
Yes. She says, to be fair, if you think I'm being too harsh on Andrea, I happen to know that the two of them had a personal, real relationship in person. So is Survivor a game? Yes. But could you backstab someone who you considered a friend in real life, especially if it didn't actually benefit you in the game and if it was abundantly cruel? Because I certainly couldn't.
But how did that not benefit her in the game?
Yeah, if we're going to go back and just look at this from a strategic point of view, okay? Let's put yourselves in Andrea, because I stand by the decision that Andrea made.
Looking at these idiots on the bottom.
Let's hold on. Let's play it out here.
Yes.
Okay, behind door number 1, okay? Here's your choices, Andrea, and we'll leave Cochran and Dawn out of this because they were their own
wild cards.
They made their own decision.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have, from what we saw on the show, we don't have any evidence to see that Andrea pulled Cochran and Dawn over or what.
Right.
From what I saw on the show, and who knows, maybe Eliza has more information about this that she, from Francesca, but it looks to me like Francesca didn't know what was going on anyway on the show. So, I mean, we have behind door number 1. It's the specialist who Andrea did play 35 days or whatever in Survivor South Pacific or Survivor Redemption Island, and who she saw Boston Rob sit next to at the end of the game and win an 8-1 vote.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So yeah, and they were tight on the. Philip did have a working relationship with Andrea in that game.
Not in the wine and cheese alliance. The only thing that he has going against him.
Yes, that's going against him. Then you have Corinne. Who I think Corinne, super loyal person.
Strong player, too.
If Corinne's on your team, and Corinne, probably not a bad person to sit next to at the end of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And Malcolm, new guy.
Malcolm, we saw his butt.
Yeah, new guy.
Stick with him.
New guy. Okay, that's behind door number 1. Behind door number 2, we have the only person to be kicked off the game first, who's been invited back.
Right.
Plus 2 of arguably the worst players of all time who've made the 2 biggest blunders in the history of the show, who both gave away the immunity necklace. And Brenda. Okay,
at least one gave it to a chick with boobs. The other one
the other one hates chicks with boobs. So that's the other thing.
Yes.
So, and then you have Brenda, who's I don't know what
she's kind of on her own island right now.
I think nobody wanted to be friends with her.
Yeah.
So I can't fault Andrea strategically about
I would
this.
want to be on the opposite alliance.
And I know
Brandon Hantz.
Stephen brought this up in the know-it-alls, and Stephen has not been too keen on any of.
Well, he's in the wine and cheese alliance.
Yes. So, but what his point was, yeah, I get you have to do what's best for you strategically. I get that, but did you have to vote her out first? But for Andrea, I'm not getting that she had a choice here. It seemed like the choice is A, go with these guys and who are going to vote out Philip, or B, go with these guys who are going to vote out Francesca. I don't think that Andrea was in a position to say,
like she was the ringleader of it.
Hey guys, how about instead of Francesca, Philip, could we vote out Brandon? Or could we vote out,
maybe
Brenda?
Francesca could have been a little less vocal and a little, she was a little too fast, too hard, too fast early on.
Yeah. So, I'm not sure. And speaking of Philip, we also had some drama yesterday on Twitter. This was from Philip actually got into a feud with Johnny Fairplay on Twitter also.
And then blocked Johnny Fairplay.
Yeah, okay. So here's so now here's the interesting thing. So Philip doesn't like Francesca. Russell Hantz loves Francesca. Yet Philip likes Russell Hantz. It's a very tricky triangle here.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so there's like some contests online of who's the greatest reality villain of all time. And there's like 30 names. Basically every single villain from every single show is nominated. So
I think only the survivors care.
So from the Survivor, I believe that Russell Hantz is nominated and Johnny Fairplay, and maybe, I'm not sure, Colton might be also.
Were you nominated?
No,
I felt like
I'm
you
not
were
a villain. I'm not a nice guy.
Are you?
Yes. Most people think that. You may not. Anyway, so they have this whole contest, and so basically Johnny Fairplay is campaigning, "Hey, vote for me," and Russell Hantz is saying, "You should vote for me." So they're sort of in a feud over this, and so Philip tweeted yesterday, voted for @Russell Hantz as most hated villain of all time for Survivor. @Johnny Fairplay is a child in comparison. So in fairness,
fighting words right there.
Philip did start it. Johnny
Fairplay
was,
he didn't have to do that.
Did seem to be minding his own business, which Johnny Fairplay responded, "Hi, @Philip Shepard TV. Just wanted to say you are a moron, you are a joke, and most of all, you are crazy."
Uh-oh. I didn't think crazy was all caps.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we know what crazy means. Not cool. So then Philip wrote back, "Considering the source, I considered your comment a compliment."
Oh,
so there you go.
Yeah.
So right, zing. And then Johnny Fairplay wrote back, "F you," Philip. And then Philip blocked him, because then Johnny Fairplay wrote, "Philip blocked me. Good riddance. And for the record, he really is crazy. #Survivor." Then apparently Johnny Fairplay then deleted that tweet. So the interns of Rob as a Podcast, great job by Austin Trupp this week, our head of interns, was following all this. And we'll have some more Survivor tweets later.
I hope he didn't have a job or go to school, because following these Twitter feeds.
Oh my God. It's going to be and we're not going to get into what Survivor Shannon was tweeting, because it was.
I feel like he was a little quiet.
No, he wasn't. You may not have been following him. He was all over, a bunch of this, Andrea too. And, not good. Not good.
I feel bad for Andrea. I don't think that she deserves it.
Well, I mean, from what we saw on the show.
Right. We don't know what may have happened outside.
From what we saw on the show, at least like the Lex and Boston Rob's stuff, which
this is what it's reminding me of.
But hold on, with Lex and Boston Rob stuff, and we're going to talk about that a little bit in our voicemail segment, which is coming up. At least that happened on the show.
Right.
What went down with Boston Rob and Lex. Okay. All right. So, Nicole, you ready for voicemail?
Yes.
All right. I feel like we need a jingle for voicemail.
Yes, we do.
So 2 ways to send in voicemail to the show. If you have a comment or a question for us, 2 ways to do it. One is with your computer. Go to robasawebsite.com/voicemail, and you can go ahead and just leave us a voicemail with the microphone on your computer, or you could do it at any phone. We just added a phone number hotline, and that number is 1-323-282-RHAP. That number again, 323-282-RHAP. Save it in your phone. Go ahead and anytime you
save it on your contact list.
Yeah, you think of something funny you have to say, or you watch the episode. I mean, then you don't have to go and look it up. Just save it.
Did you get any inappropriate voicemails?
Not yet. Not yet.
Now you will.
Well, now we will. Thank you, Nicole. All right, here we go. So here's our first voicemail, and this comes to us from Brian Hickey, and he has a question about Corinne.
Ooh.
Ready?
Hey Rob, Brian Hickey here. Really pumped to have Survivor back and to have you back on the podcast. My question's about Corinne. She's my favorite player, but I'm a little concerned about her. Should I be? Now I know Francesca was onto her because she knows she's not this warm, sunshiny person that she's portraying on the show. Should Corinne be more snarky and more like she is on Rob as a Podcast? How we love her, and not the warm, sunshiny person that we see at the beginning of Gabon and at this season, where she's being nice. We want to see more mean Corinne. Thanks a lot, Rob. Can't wait to hear the rest of the show.
All right, so Nicole, is Corinne being too nice?
Well, it's funny because Corinne actually tweeted about this, and she said that she did have snarky comments and that you need to take it up with the editors.
Oh.
Yeah.
So it's Corinne's story is the problem.
Maybe we're going to see a different Corinne story.
Maybe. Is it a Corinne? It can't be a redemption story because they would have to make her be mean to be redeemed.
Right.
But it seems like a waste if you're going to bring Corinne back. I don't think Corinne is doing
Use her for what she's good at.
Use her for what she's good at. I guess she didn't factor into the story.
Right.
The other problem with Corinne, she may not have had anything that was decent to put in the 8 o'clock hour. Like if this was like on at 10 o'clock at night or on cable, Corinne may have had much more lines on the show. But it's a family show.
Right.
So I don't know if Corinne had, I don't know if Corinne works clean is the question. That's
maybe.
She's more of a sort of like a dirty insult. She's more of a Sarah Silverman.
Okay, but Gabon was on at the same time, and we still got snarky Corinne.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Maybe she's gotten more vulgar. But what about strategically? Do you think Corinne would be better served to be more of a bitch strategically?
Where did that get her last time?
I guess so.
Yeah.
I guess so. I guess because the question is, could you vote Corinne out because she's being too nice? She's too much of a threat?
I think that people are just onto her.
Okay, so you're saying it's just one episode. Let's see how it goes.
Let's see how it goes, yeah.
Let's see how it goes. Okay, all right, here we go. This next one is from Matt Forsyth, one of our former Big Brother correspondents. What was it, rapporters? Is that what we said?
Rapporters.
Yeah, okay. Matt Forsyth, here we go.
Hey, Rob, it's Matt Forsyth. You've kind of touched on this subject throughout the week, but I don't think you have given your definitive opinion yet. Do you think that there should be real-life repercussions for actions that take place within the game, or should people realize that it is just a game and that Survivor is mutually exclusive from real life? Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, Nicole. So this is going back to what we were talking about with Andrea and with Francesca and the real-life implications of Survivor betrayal among all stars.
This is what happens when you bring players back. They're all friends.
Yes.
They've all, swapped spit here and there.
Whoa.
And whatever else. So this is what happens. We've seen it happen the first time in All Stars.
Okay, well, good. I'm glad because I feel like I have a unique perspective to talk about
exactly.
This. Because I talked about this a little bit with Steven the other night. I was the first person in Survivor history to ever be betrayed by someone who you had a relationship with in real life.
Right.
It did not happen with Tina.
Right.
It did not happen with Rudy. Jenna Maraska left the game. So I was the first person ever to get blindsided by somebody who I considered to be a friend in real life.
Right.
And
you were hurt.
You know what? Yes, I was hurt and I was bitter, and for a long time it really, really bothered me. And I'm sure if you go back and look at my press that I did at that time, I was bitter towards Rob and Amber because I knew them in real life. But I was upset. And you know what? I'm lucky probably that there wasn't Twitter at the time of Survivor All-Stars, because God knows what I might have tweeted and God knows what Lex might have tweeted.
No, and then when you watched it made you even more upset.
I was, because then you see what people said behind your back, and they were supposed to be your friends and whatever. But what I know now, and maybe, because it's like, 8-9 years removed, here's what people want. Okay, and this is what the audience wants. We don't care, again, I'm speaking more as from somebody in the audience than somebody who's played Survivor before. What we want all of the drama on the show.
Right.
Okay? But at the end of the game, after your torch goes out, what we want to hear, if we're fans, is,
it's all good.
Hey, you know what? They beat me.
It was a game.
I got to tip my cap. It was a game. I got to give them credit. I did not see that coming.
They don't like bitter beavers.
That's what we want to hear. So now, as podcasters, that's not what we want to hear.
Totally different.
That's totally different. But that's what we want, and I think that's going back to Boston Rob and Lex, and it's like people got that there was a perception of Lex after that season that he's, especially on the internet, Lex is bitter.
And has he even fully recovered from that?
And
I don't think so.
I think that Lex still gets that perception from some people
does, yeah.
As being bitter towards Boston Rob, because at the end of the day, we the people who watch the show, they'll never understand how close you guys were in the game in real life.
In real life,
for all we know, Andrea and Francesca could have had sleepover parties every single night, and it had and you wonder, did they have
BFF
some sort of
XOXO.
BFF and told each other secrets and talked about crushes and all the stuff.
Pillow fights.
And for all we know, did Francesca and Andrea have a alliance preseason? And because that's
probably
that's what it sounds like to me, for it to be some sort of like, did they talk on the phone and say, hey, it's us to the end? But you know what? To any future survivor who goes back, it's like the ultimate, like people always worry about, how do you stop the survivors who are going back from making alliances before they go back? And here's the beautiful thing about it, like for and against it, you can't stop them. They're going to do it.
Right.
They're going to all call each other. It happens. It happens every single time. And you know what? They're wasting all of their time.
Yeah,
because
and they're
when
wasting their hearty.
the bell rings on Survivor, throw it all out the window.
Dude, you're playing for $1 million.
You're playing for $1 million, and people will screw over. Forget their friends. People will screw over their family.
I will screw over my mom for $1 million
for less than that. So Andrea and Francesca could be best friends. They could have all these things going for each other. They could make. Again, I have no idea if they were talking about
like, though.
working together. Obviously they were friends. Obviously they both had to have known they were both going back on the show. I'm sure they said, hey, well, of course I've got your back. You got my back. I got
Don't
your back.
vote me out first again.
Don't vote. Yeah, just whatever you do, don't vote me out first. No problem. I promise.
Yeah.
But when the bell rings, boom, this is your life. This is your game, and this is your money.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like
it's every man for themselves.
It's every man for itself, and it's the Wild West, and that's why the drama is always going to be more intense in an all-star season, because people are going to do what It's one thing, it's Survivor the Amazon. It's day 3, and I meet Ryan Aiken 72 hours ago, and he says, "Dude, you're gonna vote with me, right?" Like, "Oh yeah, no worries, man."
Yeah.
And I shake his hand. "Oh, I promise, I'm with you.
Not that this
I'm with
happened.
you." Okay, no, this is what happened.
Oh.
And I promise, hey man, hey, don't worry, guy. I think I said game, set, match. We got this.
Yeah, you did.
And I take tennis lessons now, so how about that? But so whatever. I met this guy 72 hours ago, and I lied to him, and we voted him out.
And he's still mad.
But probably.
Yeah.
But he's like, you know what? It's like, damn, that guy tricked me. I thought he was with me, and he wasn't. Now you have somebody like, in the case of somebody like Boston Rob, like we hung out with
you guys
with
did
Boston
have
Rob.
sleepover parties.
Yeah, I went to Boston Rob's house. So now it's not somebody that
we went
met.
on vacation with them.
Even it's somebody who you have played the game with 38 days, okay? 38 days in Survivor, it's like, okay, well, now this is somebody that you've known for a year, and you've been to their house, and you've talked on the phone, and you've done all these things, and now this person screws you. Of course it's worse than somebody who you just met.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, for the people who are at home, they don't care anymore that you knew them ahead of time.
No, they make fun of you.
And it still comes off as bitter when you're saying, but I knew them ahead of time.
We had this deal. Yeah.
The fans don't care that much.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to.
Then don't align with Brandon Hantz, and maybe it would be better.
Yeah, you're blaming it all on Brandon Hantz. All right. So that's my take on that. So long story short, I don't think it matters. And for all returning players, just know you could have all the deals you want in the world, but it doesn't mean a thing.
Would you vote me out for $1 million?
No, I would not.
Oh, he winked.
I did not wink. All right, let's go to our buddy Ori Kohav as a question.
Yo, Rob, it's Ori. There's something that I really feel like sharing.
Ooh.
The moment Francesca said there's no way she was going to be first out again, I was like, Francesca, bye-bye. And don't forget that, Rock. Because last season, Final 10, people said there's no way Penner will win immunity. Suddenly, he wins. Same thing at Final 7. People said Abby was never going to win immunity, and suddenly, she wins. Turns out the editors turned the show into some sort of a comical movie. Whenever someone says there's no way something is going to happen, that something happens. What's your take on that?
All right. First of all, I love Ori Kohab. He's great. So, Nicole, is there something about Survivor whenever somebody says something that's not going to happen, it seems to always happen?
It seems that way, yes. But it also seemed like Francesca was so, I don't want to say obsessed, but she really was just like, I can't be the first one voted out. Like, that was just in her head.
Yeah. So here's the thing, though. This is, it has gotten to the point where this is, a little bit of a knock on the editors here.
Yeah.
Where now we are trained as people who are watch the show. We are people who, a lot of us, the people who watch Survivor, have watched, if not 26 seasons of Survivor, have watched more than 15 seasons of Survivor. Right. Okay. So most of the Survivor audience are basically, we're the people who are, you're preaching to the choir here.
Right.
So we've seen the show before, and we know that whatever you say is like the worst case scenario is if Penner wins immunity tonight. Where as long as Penner doesn't win immunity, we're good.
Yeah.
Now,
and then
and especially if it happens before the credits, we know. So I wish they would get a little smart, or throw us off one week.
Yeah, throw us off. Exactly.
The only the only thing we have. Malcolm can't go home this episode. And then if he doesn't go home, we'll be like, oh, okay, they really threw us off this week.
Unless they say, Malcolm, I hope his pants don't fall off again.
The only thing that we have to worry about is Malcolm's pants falling off. Because
and then if they happen to come off, oh my God, that's terrible.
Yes, that was your favorite part of the episode?
It was, yes.
Yes. Wait, what? Yeah. Let's not even go there. Wait until Philip's underwear come off.
Yes, I was just upset. It was just the back.
Just the back. You want full frontal?
I want full frontal. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Very classy. All right. This is a good question. This is from Andy.
Hey Rob, Andy C from Montreal, Canada here. If you replay the tape on the Immunity Challenge in the season premiere, you will notice that Jeff Probst declares Cochran and Philip up first for the heroes. Is this a Freudian slip? Does Probst view the fans' tribe as villains? If so, why does he think that? Thanks, Rob, and can't wait to hear your expert analysis.
Yes, my expert analysis. Thank you, Andy.
You're the only one
Thank
that says
you.
that, Andy.
Yes. All right. So, Nicole, Andy claims that Jeff Probst said he referred to Philip and Cochran as the heroes during the immunity challenge. Is this possible that this could have happened?
I heard that, but I thought Cochran said it.
You thought Cochran said it. I mean, you would not think that the 4-time Emmy Award-winning host of Survivor would make such a mistake.
You would think the editors would be like, ooh, Jeff, we're going to edit that out.
Yeah. So what do you think he said it?
I thought it was Cochran. I thought Cochran said it.
Okay.
But there was definitely, you heard somebody say the heroes.
All right. So let's see. I have the clip. Let's see if it was Jeff or Cochran. Okay. Here we go.
Here we go for immunity. Survivor's ready. Go. Cochran and Philip up first for the heroes.
Oh.
Sherry and Laura up first for the fans.
Yes.
Good job, ladies. Cannot toss the crates until both
So,
tribe
that
members
Jeff
are there.
Probst-
Go.
Yeah. Did in fact refer to the Cochran and
I think
Philip
there was
as
another
the heroes.
time then. Because I really do think that Cochran said heroes too, or somebody else.
No, it was Jeff.
Just Jeff.
Just Jeff. Was that a Freudian slip?
Possibly.
Are the fans the villains?
I guess, obviously.
Yeah. But, for the record...
Oh, they're just the douches.
The douches. Yeah, they are the villains right now. For the record, the fans did win the first challenge in the original Fans versus Favorites.
They did, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I know everybody's like, Jeff is like, hey, the fans just kicked your butt. The fans, I think, are stronger than the favorites, like physically.
They look it. They have bigger dudes.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, like I'm still confident that the final 6, we're looking at a lot of favorites there.
Oh, definitely.
5 out of 6 of the final 6.
You can't mess with 10 favorites.
Yeah, we'll see.
Or 9 now.
All right. And one last question, and this comes to us from Josh in the OC.
Ooh, an
okay?
OC.
I think you're gonna like this one.
Ooh.
Hey, Rob, how's it going? You said to Steven that you didn't feel that Francesca was necessarily the worst player of all time. So I was wondering who you thought actually held that honor.
Ooh.
Personally, my vote is for Steve Chicken Morris from Survivor China. What are your thoughts? My name is Josh Morriscounty. Thank you. Bye.
All right. So, Nicole.
Worst player of all time.
Who is the worst player? I agree. I do not. Well, I don't agree. I stand by what I said the other night. Francesca is not the worst player of all time. Okay?
Okay, but you said that Sandra has to be the best survivor of all time because she won twice.
No, I said, here's what I say. I say that you can make the argument, however you want to go, that either Boston Rob, Parvati, or Sandra, pick one of those three, you can argue each of them is the best player of all time. Mm-hmm. And I could argue myself. I don't, if I don't have a, I think if you had a gun to my head, I would say Boston Rob. Uh-huh. But you could, either of those three. There's no wrong answer to that question. Okay? So, but the worst player of all time, this is interesting. So, Nicole, you may recall some time ago we had a conversation about how do you figure out who is the best player of all time,
uh-huh.
and so I said it really came down to these three circles.
Oh, good.
On my paper.
Good. Thanks a lot, Josh.
And the game of Survivor is made up of three elements:
uh-huh.
outwit, outplay, and outlast. Uh-huh. And so ultimately, the game of Survivor is ultimately made up of strategic acumen, strength, and social ability.
I'm glad we whipped out the dork.
How well you're liked. And I did draw the three interlocking circles here. Now, by proxy, the worst player of all time would be the person who is the most unathletic, the greatest combination of the most unathletic, uh-huh. the most unlikable, uh-huh. and the most stupid when it comes to the game. So really, what is the survivor that embodies these three traits? It's really the bizarro uh-huh. of the top of the good three things. These are the bad three things.
Okay.
Who is the worst at challenges? Who is the most unlikable? And who has the worst understanding of the strategic side of the game?
Okay, so what'd you come up with?
So I made a list.
He's cracking himself up.
All right, here I am. And I have the worst. I have a pick for who the worst survivors of all time. And let's see if you guys agree with me. All right, here's my list of who. These are in no particular order.
Okay.
These are the people that I think are the worst survivor players of all time.
All right, let's hear it.
All right, here we go. No particular order, just chronological order. That is the particular order.
Okay.
All right. From season 1, BB Anderson. Old,
uh-huh.
unlikable,
okay.
didn't seem to understand how the numbers work.
But it was new.
It was new.
Give him that.
I've got Diane Ogden from Survivor Africa, first person. Now, everybody on my list is not the first person off, because you also have to lose the first challenge. Like, you could be the worst player and not get kicked off first.
Right.
I think now Francesca. Here's why I don't think she's the worst. Francesca is very athletic.
Yeah.
So because you'd give her a good grade in one of the three boxes immediately, she's not one of the worst. That she's athletic and she does appear to be likable. She seems to have a lot of friends,
but not likable enough to be not voted out.
Half the tribe liked her.
Half the tribe.
So it's not everybody. She doesn't get voted out.
It wasn't personal.
Unanimous votes.
It wasn't personal.
Yes. So she's just not good at the strategic game. she's bad at one of the three things.
Uh-huh.
She just might be really bad at that one of the three things.
She's really bad.
But she's good at she's very dominant in the challenges.
Yeah.
So I have to give Francesca. She's not the worst player ever.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So from Survivor the Amazon, Janet Koth. Okay. She didn't really have any friends and she wasn't good in the challenges.
Okay.
This might be a controversial one. I've got Wanda on the list.
Oh, Wanda.
Wanda. Now, did she really play? Wanda. Now, I think Wanda, here's the thing about Wanda. I don't know how likable. She might have been likable with that ukulele, or it might have got on people's nerves.
I could see both happening.
Yes. So I like Wanda. So I wouldn't.
But you weren't on an island with her.
She was bad in the challenges, and they didn't pick her, so maybe she was unlikable.
Oh, that was so sad.
Yeah. Apparently there was a guy, Jim Lynch, on Guatemala. He was very old, and they voted him out first. I think I'm gonna put him on my list. And then I've got two from at least one from Survivor Exile Island. The one with I'm gonna go with Melinda Hyder.
I don't even remember her.
She was on Survivor Exile Island. And I'm gonna also add in Mike Barassi.
Oh, Oh, Mikey B.
No, not Mike. That's Mike Bortone. That's a different Mike B.
Which one is this one?
He had to be medevaced out of. If you have to be medevaced like in the first 6 days, that's not a good sign.
Or you're just really unlucky.
I think he got medevaced, and I think he was going to get voted out anyway.
You think he did it on purpose?
A double whammy. No, I don't think so. Okay, but I do have a pick, Nicole, for the worst survivor of all time.
Let's hear it.
And she also holds a special place in Rob Has a Podcast history, as she was the first exit interview that we ever did. My pick for the worst survivor of all time is Wendy DeSchmidt Colno? I don't know how to pronounce it.
Wendy, yes. Survivor Wendy.
Wendy from Survivor Nicaragua is my pick for the worst survivor. She was the most unathletic, most unliked by her tribe, and the worst at the game of any of the 400 or so people I ran through my system. Commenters, come at me. Come at me, bro. Let's see. I know. Let's see. That's my pick.
That's very interesting.
So that was my formula for the worst player of the game. It's not always the first person kicked off. Mm-hmm. I also want to throw an honorable mention, Sandy from Survivor Tokensheens, but I went back and looked at her. She looks a little fit.
Okay.
So, and I don't think Steve Chicken Morris is the worst, because he's like a guy you'd want to have around. He's like good at he was like outdoorsy and stuff.
Yeah.
So
definitely not the worst.
Yes, and it's fun to say Steve Chicken Morris. So I don't think he was. He looked like he was pretty decent in the challenges. He wasn't like an old, feeble guy that was going to cost him the challenges. Yeah, and so Wendy, poor Wendy, she was very nice.
She was very nice. She talked a lot.
She talked.
She talked a lot,
and she said,
"I remember that interview."
She said, "My husband said I'm going to be the first one." Even her husband knew. He knew. If your family doesn't even believe in you, it's not a good sign that
That's sad.
Okay. I know we had so much to get to on this show. All right, so here we go. We have let's just go through some of our comments here as we get again put together by our excellent team at Rob Has a Podcast. Okay, so Colton had a lot to say also on Twitter this week.
What did he say?
So he had a lot to talk about. He said, I'll read a few of them. He said, I'd like to point out that I was dead wrong on RHAP.
I saw this, yeah.
He said, I honestly thought Reynolds and Eddie would be smarter than to couple up. Such super fans. Okay?
Yeah, exactly.
So one of the new survivors, at Ali Pohovitz.
Do you follow any of the new survivors?
I did follow 2 of the survivors recently. I followed Matt and Mike, the power couple of the male. They're more of an Amazing Race team than they're the bearded BMXer.
Who you were very hard on.
I was hard on.
You were hard. Do you want to say you're sorry?
Well, I stand by what I said at the time.
Okay,
but I can like him also.
Okay.
And
so I thought you were a little harsh on him.
I was, but it throws me off with the beard because I can't tell when he's talking or not.
It's so stupid.
It's difficult. And Mike Snow.
That was my pick.
Your pick to win the game.
Because he reminds me of Jon Snow.
yes, because they're the same name. But Allie, the
is that the chick from Long Island?
Yes, and the girlfriend of Reynolds on the show. She's apparently got some haters coming at her. She says, if you're going to make nasty comments about me, at least use proper grammar. So to all the haters out
grammar
there.
Police.
Yes. Who are tweeting to at Ali Pohovitz with poor grammar.
Please
step up your game.
Periods and commas.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So let's see. We talked about Russell before. Let's see. Rupert.
Rupert was all in on live tweeting as well.
Yeah,
although I'm not sure which game he was watching.
He's not personally attacking anybody.
No, he
Rupert's
wasn't.
been very much in the mix.
Yes.
I wonder if we're on a collision course to have a Rupert RHAP at some point.
Yes.
So, but he's been, after the governor thing didn't pan out, Rupert's been all over the social media.
It's like Jeff Probst with Survivor. His show isn't.
Well, yes. So we do report on all the Survivor news. The Jeff Probst show, unfortunately, was canceled this week. And so, but Jeff Probst, he is talking about Survivor. He loves
He's
Survivor.
all in on Survivor.
And that's good. That's good to hear.
That's great to hear. It's great news.
Yeah, great to hear. The other Survivor news that
Not
happened,
that we wanted his show to get canceled.
No.
Yeah.
My mom watches it every day. My mom's telling me about everything that happened on the Jeff Probst show every day.
Oh, so you get informed.
And we watched the ones with Lisa Whelchel also.
Yes, we did.
We did.
And though Ethan Zahn will be on, I believe, next week.
Ooh.
They filmed it the other day.
Exclusive. It was funny when Lisa Whelchel was on because it did seem like Jeff did not really want her to be there.
He was like taking digs at her.
Here, can we do a reenactment of this? Is Lisa Whelchel? I'll be Jeff.
Okay.
And you be Lisa Whelchel.
Okay.
And this is like they had Lisa Whelchel on for like a week or two. Okay.
I thought it was a permanent thing. I didn't know it was just
No, it was like
temporary.
it was like no. And then my mom said that they had from Community Yvette Nicole Brown.
Oh, really?
Was like co-hosting like one week. With
they
him.
really were trying to be like Regis and Kelly,
Throwing stuff at the wall.
Yeah.
But so this is okay. This is the Rob and Nicole reenactment. This is a new segment of Lisa Whelchel on the show with Jeff Probst. And so, how about this is the day she was gonna? She went. Okay, you got it.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, I know what you're gonna say.
All right, we're here. Whelchel, what's going on?
You know, Jeff, I just really want to be in show business.
Oh, okay. Because I thought you were in show business. You're on my show right now. It feels like to me you're in show business.
No, but like really like show business.
Yeah, I get it. I thought I put you on Survivor. You're here with me now. I thought that this was kind of show business.
No, I want to be in a comedy.
Yeah. Tell about her when she went to the party with the book.
And then I went to this party, and there was this guy there, and he was in show business, and I wanted to be in show business too. So I got all nervous.
All right, hold on, Whelchel. Let me stop you right there because I got to know in your head, is any part of this story interesting? Like.
Oh, come on, Jeff.
No, I'm serious because I'd like to know. Like, he was like very like almost like it was like like listening to like me and Nicole.
It totally was like listening to us.
It's like a married couple.
Yes.
Like they've been together for way too long.
Uh-huh.
Like, Jeff did not seem to want her there, but Jeff seems like he's in a good place.
I saw him on the talk the other day, and he was just totally gung ho about Survivor.
Yeah. I don't know. It seems like he likes Survivor more because he gets to do what he wants. Even though it's called the Jeff Probst Show, I got a feeling, even from when I talked to him on the podcast, when if you listen to the podcast we did with Jeff Probst, it sounded like I asked him about how's everything going with the show, and he's like, yeah, the great thing about Survivor is we don't get a lot of notes from the network, and on the talk show there's a lot of executives that are telling us what they want to do. So. I just want Jeff Probst to be happy.
Yeah, and he seems really happy with his wife. He's always talking about his wife and his kids with his blended family, and now he has this book that he's sharing with his blended family.
Stranded. Yes, I have a copy of it here. I have a copy. If you want to check out Jeff Probst's
I want to
book,
have a reading.
Go to robhasawebsite.com/stranded. This is like a marathon podcast. Can I do? Would you like to hear a reading of Jeff?
I would
Probst's,
like an excerpt, please.
An excerpt of the Jeff Probst book. Okay, so here we go. This is a reading of the Jeff Probst book by Jonathan Penner. Okay?
I heard this the other day.
She knew he wasn't trying to scare Jane, but Carter did the kind of thing all the time. Talking first and then thinking later, or not thinking at all. She looked him in the eye, then over at Jane, and back again.
Oh,
yes.
He's stealing characters from the island.
Yes. No, well, Jeff, the characters in the book are Carter and Jane, and so Jeff must have been inspired during one of these.
He was the only one inspired by Carter.
And a Dexter, yeah. Who else was? All right, so where were we? Okay, so Rupert. We're going to start on Rupert. That he said, she tweeted during the show, #Survivor. Survivor is a game, not a dating service. When did @Jeff Probst become Chuck Woolery?
Oh. Well, speaking of Survivor as a dating
funny.
service.
That's funny.
That was funny, but there's a new Survivor wedding.
Oh, yeah. Well, I talked about this with Coach.
Yes.
Yes.
So it was Keith and Whitney officially engaged.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
That's that. I mean, if somebody has gotten this far in the podcast, we've already talked about that.
Oh, excuse me.
It's new to you. Yeah, I gotta know. Is there any part of this story that you think is interesting that I just want to know in your head? Because I gotta know.
All right, come on, keep it rolling. Roll it.
Sophie G. Clark, she got into it. She said, if I am 35 and unmarried, I'm gonna be a single mom and adopt Eric.
Oh, Eric.
Yeah, Sophie's funny. Okay, so then, so here's a good one. We talked about this in the preview show. We wanted to know if there are asked the survivors every season, what is the survivor player that you would most be like? And what survivor player inspires you? So one of our great listeners, Lines in a Conversation, went back, did the research, went all the way...
Wait, what was the question?
Okay, who is in the cast previews, when they do their bio, they ask them, who is the survivor player you would most like to play like? Or who's the survivor player that's most like you? Okay, so he went back, went through everything, and tried to figure out who are the players that were mentioned the most times, okay? So these are the players that have been mentioned more than 6 times. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 survivors have been mentioned more than 6 times by players. Who are they going to be like? How many of them can you name, Nicole?
Okay, so I would say Boston Rob.
Boston Rob is on the list. He has been surprisingly only 6 times has anybody said that they are like Boston Rob.
Okay, Parvati.
Hold on, let me just make the checks. Parvati is on the list, and she has been named 9 times.
9
People
times.
are going to play like Parvati.
Okay. That's a long list.
Okay, 6 more.
Colby.
Colby is on the list. He has been named 6 times.
6 times. Okay.
Yes. Okay, 5 more. 5 more names.
I think that's all I got.
Come on, you can't get. You can throw out some names.
You know I have no memory.
Okay, but this isn't really a memory game. This is like name famous survivor game.
Okay. Sorry, but I don't think Coach is on the list.
Coach is not on the list.
Coach is not on the list.
Yes,
I don't think Philip is on the list either.
Coach and Philip are not on the list. But again, tell us people who are on the list.
I'm going through my Survivor Rolodex in my brain.
As everybody who has earbuds in is just screaming at you right now.
I don't think Russell is on the list.
Actually, Russell is on the list.
He is on the
list.
I'm
sorry.
surprised.
Taboo buzzer. Do I have it nearby?
All right, now people with earbuds are yelling at you.
You're yelling at me. Yeah.
Okay. All right, who else is on the list?
All right, the rest of the list is Rupert Boneham.
I was going to say Rupert, but I didn't think so.
The previously aforementioned Rupert Boneham. Russell Hantz is on the list. Ozzy.
Oh, Ozzy, yes.
Ozzy is on the list 6 times. Here's a surprising one. Fabio on the list 6 times.
Oh, I saw Fabio the other day.
You saw Fabio. Tell us where you saw Fabio.
Fabio, I think that $1 million is definitely
dwindling.
Used up. He was on the 4th hour of the Today Show with
Kathy Lee and Hoda.
With Kathy Lee and Hoda modeling underwear.
Yes.
Gotta say, looking good.
Okay, there you go. And this is the surprising thing. The number one the survivor player that the people have said that they are the most like, or that it most reminds them of themselves. Number 1. Okay, it has not been mentioned yet.
Okay.
Guess who it is?
No.
Stephanie LaGrossa. 10 people.
Yeah, I could see that.
10 people have said it, believe it or not. Just amazingly, somebody said they're like Bob Crowley, which is pretty amazing. Apparently 3 people said that they were like me, but I think Cochran counted twice. I think Cochran said this season and on his previous season, and then Michael Snow.
Okay.
So very interesting list. So great job, really really great job by Lines in a Conversation to put that all together. Okay.
Yeah, that's a lot of research to do.
Yeah, that was a lot of research to do. We appreciate that. Okay. All right. So and then Damn Bueno on the comments on robhasawebsite.com said, I wonder if this Survivor Matt will break the trend of truly clueless Matts on Survivor. Okay, Nicole, are you ready for the list of Matts and Matthews on Survivor?
Okay, yes.
Okay, of course, who can ever forget the first Matt in Survivor history, Matthew Von Ertfelder, who Damn calls Rob C's clueless pocket vote all the way to the final 3. Is that machete sharp enough yet? Now, again, that's a little unfair for me.
A little unfair.
Maddie Whitmore couldn't wait to expose every alliance and strategy he ever had to anyone who will listen. Then we have Matt Elrod, blindsided by Boston Rob twice.
But he was a dreamboat.
Probably still trust him. Former boy toy of Andrea Boliki. And also Matt Quinlan bragged about his dominant alliance of 4 on a tribe of 9. After nobody votes how he'd like to, he gets blindsided and calls himself a strong player. So that
But we still love the rooster.
Yes. And so anyway, Dan says, I for one am hoping that Matt Bischoff continues this trend. I also like to see pro football teams have winless seasons just for the historical angle.
Okay.
Okay.
Very cynical.
Okay. Very, very cynical. Very cynical. All right. So I think that is about
That
it.
wraps it up.
Wraps it up, Nicole. So great job by Austin Trupp and the interns.
Who is the head of intern for next week?
You know, I don't have that here, so I'm gonna have to. We'll figure.
We'll get back at you.
We'll get back at you. Yeah. So all right, Nicole. So that's gonna do it for Rob as a podcast. This mega episode.
Yes, this was a mega episode, 90 minutes long.
It's longer than 90 minutes.
Just the episode.
Oh yes. Okay. So next week on the show, we're gonna be back. So here's what we're gonna start doing this week. Amazing Race podcast coming Sunday.
Oh.
Going to cover the Amazing Race in podcast form this season.
Okay.
So Amazing Race podcast Sunday night, followed by then it's time. We're going to do it all over again this week.
Oh my God.
Here we go again. So after Survivor is over this week, Survivor Know-It-Alls live Wednesday at 9:45, followed by Thursday we'll talk to the second person kicked off of Survivor Caramoan, and then time for.
Do you think it's a fan or a favorite?
Here's what I think it's a fan. Going by the previews showed, and then Brandon Hantz, he's up to the old Hantz family tricks, which tells me that
he's not going anywhere.
The favorites will win immunity, and a fan will be going home.
Yeah,
that's just my inside the promo. We'll see if I'm right or wrong.
Yeah,
but it's almost like if that's what the preview is saying, it's almost like you pretty much know Brandon is safe next week.
Lucky Brandon.
Lucky Brandon. Lucky us.
Yes.
All right. So that's my take on that. I hope nobody gets mad at me for giving you my take on the previews. Anyway, have a great week, everybody. We've got so much good stuff coming up. Thanks to everybody using our link for Amazon. We always appreciate it when you start your Amazon experience at robasawebsite.com/Amazon. And if you're on the Google Plus and you haven't checked out our group, come visit us at robasawebsite.com/G+, G+, we spell it out. That's a direct link to go to our Google Plus community, which is thriving, Nicole.
It is thriving.
Yes. All right. So, Nicole, you got anything good coming up this week on thatprettyfitchick.com?
Oh, we have a new challenge coming up in March. It starts March 1st. It's the March Madness Challenge. We got a good group going on right now. A good lineup every day of the week. We have different workouts. Come work out with us.
We got a hard-working lady.
I try. Got to keep fit. Got to keep hot.
Do you work just as hard at thatprettyfitchick.com as I do at Rob as a podcast?
Probably harder.
Whoa. Let's throw down. All right, everybody. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you again soon. Take care, everybody.
Got
Bye.
nothing for you.